Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, August 15th, and we are live. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is the first Market Open after a day of no streams, which was just as weird for me as it was for all of you guys yesterday. I think this is the first day we took off, like full day, no Market Open, no close, I think in about 5 months. So it definitely was weird yesterday at 9:30. There was no cowbell. There was nothing like I know a lot of you guys said it was weird. It was weird for me too. I didn't know what was going on. I was kind of out of whack the whole day. But don't do that shit again. So yeah, it becomes a routine, right? I think we talked about it a couple of days ago. Once you have a routine and once you're in something, not only as a creator but also as a consumer, someone who's just like, okay, this is what I watch in the morning. This is what kind of gets me through the day. For me, this is what I do in the morning. When that goes away, it's weird. It's very, very weird. So definitely felt weird for me, and I can understand how it felt weird for you guys as well. But look, deeply humbled by the amount of people that reached out. I mean, I think there's almost like 100 to 150 messages on Twitter alone, and probably because Matt kept tagging me saying, "Where's the stream?" And but like it was deeply humbling to know that many people actually wanted the content, you know. And so yeah, it was nice to see that many people cared about having the content every day. But also it told me that it is a part of people's routine at this point. Like, you know, you have a feeling that it's part of people's routine, but when it's taken away, you know that people are actually annoyed that they don't have it. And so I'm happy to be here every day and keep it going. So we're here. We're live. The furniture was good. They forgot my lamps though, dude. Not only were they late, they came by like 11. They were supposed to come at around like 10:30. No, they actually came at around 11:30. But then they forgot the lamps. So, but overall, everything was good. We got everything set up and got it going. And I thought I could have, I was thinking yesterday, could I have done the stream and still made it on time? And it's like I could have, but it would have been so stressful, especially driving in because the traffic would have picked up around 11 a.m. in Jersey. So it just wasn't worth actually trying to do the stream. And then the close, I could have attempted to do it, but there was no Wi-Fi in the apartment. So I would have had to use my hotspot. And yesterday, this iPhone decided to stop working. Now, granted, I have roughed it up a lot over the past couple of years, but I literally had to go to Apple yesterday in New York City and buy a brand new one. This is the 16 Pro Max, because this one, look at this. It's been charged. It still is not above like 1%. Like, it is so bad. And so yesterday, you know, I've had the iPhone for 2.5 years. At some point, Apple gets you. They end up ruining your battery. And yesterday they did it for me. And they did it on the worst day. So, yeah, I had to spend $1,300 and buy a new iPhone. And I really did not want to upgrade my iPhone. It's one of the most useless things to me. But like when the other iPhone's not charging, it's like, okay, I need my phone. So yeah, we got the furniture in, got a new phone. I got to meet with Stephen Kalani, who's one of the heads of intelligence at the NASDAQ yesterday. That was the person I was having dinner with last night in New York. So he hooked me up with this nice little NASDAQ merch, and it's super awesome. So yeah, it was a long day yesterday. Got through a lot of stuff. Apparently, there was a lot of breaking news yesterday around these 13Fs. And so we'll talk a lot about that. One of these stocks is being bought up and it seems like the new darling of Wall Street, UNH, baby, up 10%. So we will get into everything going on with the 13Fs. But if I was live on the market close yesterday, it would have been just a lot of breaking news with all these 13Fs and 13Gs. So we're going to spend a lot of time discussing and talking about what it means for the implications of a variety of these stocks, especially big tech stocks that got bought up as well. And yeah, we will keep it going from there and keep doing what we have to do. Yeah, it's a dope pullover, dude. He was a great guy. Got to meet with the people at the NASDAQ and, you know, get a better understanding of just like what the NASDAQ does and, you know, what, like, I got to learn a lot yesterday about the business of exchanges and like, because I understand the business of brokerages because of investing in Robinhood, but the business of exchanges is a totally different business. So it was really cool to kind of just like learn more about it. And, you know, I texted this picture to Steve. He wasn't happy about it, but it is what it is. We hit up Ben and Jack's in New York, which ironically Steve introduced to me. And he was mad that I did it this way, but I had to do it. Look at that. Beautiful medium well. Absolutely gorgeous medium well. Steve didn't even want to talk to me after I sent him that, but still. I loved it. It was a great steak. All right, we're live. We are live. Thank you all for being here again. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We got a lot of headlines. We got a bunch of different things going on, so we will get through all that and get into this market open. Again, just finally, deep appreciation for everyone who reached out yesterday that, was missing the show. Again, it's very, very humbling for me to know that many people actually care about the content, and it's part of your daily lives. And, it's part of when you're getting the kids ready for school or when you're making coffee, getting ready to work. So it is very, very humbling to be part of people's lives. Chris Camillo had an interesting comment last night. Matt tagged me and he was like, Mick gets a little bit of money, gets to a new apartment and abandons everyone. Obviously, Matt was joking right here. But Chris Camillo, who's also a good friend of the channel, he says, parents' basement Amit at full grind will forever be peak Amit. And, he's not wrong about that, because my response is there is truth to the hunger of not having anything being some of the most prime hunger. Obviously, when you don't have anything and you have to work your ass off to make something out of nothing, there's a certain type of grind that can never be replicated. But hopefully the gratitude of being able to capitalize on that prime hunger continues to keep the work ethic alive. And just the level of gratitude I had yesterday for all the people that actually really were upset, genuinely were annoyed that the show wasn't live yesterday. That is something I'm very, very grateful for, and I do not take that for granted. So the grind continues. It will just continue on the 17th floor. Streams will likely be starting the last week of August, early September. We're getting everything set up. Let me just say this. It's a nice apartment. It's a I got to stay there for about 7-8 hours yesterday. It was a nice, it's a good one, dude. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I just got to soak it in yesterday, actually sit there for a few hours and just see what life would be like being in there every day. It was cool. It was really cool. I think you guys will enjoy it. So it'll be fun. It'll be new era for the channel, new era for all these streams. I think we'll get a lot more interesting, innovative, different creative types of content along with all the market stuff we're doing. And I think it should be cool. So again, very, very grateful for everybody for being here. Thank you all for caring so much about the streams. And let's get into it, because the grind continues. 13 Fs. Let's do it. We had a lot of 13 Fs get disclosed. We'll go through all of them in aggregate, and then later in the show, we'll kind of go deeper into the specifics here. But there's obviously some core specifics we have to talk about. Real quick before 13 Fs, retail sales data. Very important. July sales, 0.5 versus 0.5 expected. 0.5 versus 0.5 expected. So retail sales are good. Consumers continue to spend. Now, one thing that is not a little concerning, but something that is in line with the PPI. Oh, I forgot. We had PPI yesterday, and it was the worst PPI since 2022. We'll talk more about the implications of that. But the stock market did not care. S&P was down 0.15% yesterday based on the worst PPI we've had in over 2.5 years. I think that's a win for the market, and we'll talk more about what that means for the macro. But we did get this morning. July import prices don't suggest exporters are eating the tariffs, because prices are up 0.4%. So you do have import prices that are higher. This is the highest since April. PPI. We saw a little bit of a dent in that based on some of these metrics yesterday. But earnings growth and the variety of tailwinds we've talked about in the market are kind of allowing people to ignore it. So we're going to see how the market reacts. Right now in the pre-market, S&P relatively flat, but that is actually, it's up a little bit. That is some of the data we have for retail sales. Okay, cool. So, well, you froze for a second. We should be good. Internet's fine. You froze for a second. It must have been literally a second. It should be good though. Right? Yeah. The internet everything seems good on my side today. We should be okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So all I was saying is July import prices are a little bit higher, 0.4%. We'll see what that means on overall inflation. But retail sales came in line with expectations, which means, again, consumers are ready to spend. It scared me. It's like you missed the whole day yesterday. Now the stream freezes today. Yeah, we can't have that, bro. We can't have that today. All right, cool. 13 Fs. So Chris Patel is someone who I think was very happy yesterday when the news came out. And I'm sure those of you guys who are deep in UNH are also very happy. Buffett bought. So you had Mr. Buffett decide that it's time to buy UNH. Not only was it Buffett, it was also David Tepper. It was also Michael Burry. And it was pretty much also every other major fund that's out there. The Saudi Public Investment Fund loaded up on UNH. So there's a couple of layers to this to discuss in terms of what it means for UNH, what it means for some of these stocks that are getting the momentum that they're getting. But I want to know everyone's raw reaction. What do you think? Good, bad? Do you care? Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Is UNH still a junk stock, even if the big guys are buying? Is this now inevitably going to be one of the most important stocks in the market because the big guys are buying? I think there's a lot of ways to kind of analyze it and go deeper. My perspective is very simple. I don't know how UNH does not recover, maybe not to all-time highs, but significantly from here if the big guys are buying. Now, there's a couple of layers to this. Number one, and this is actually very surprising to me, this stock was at 230. Buffett, Tepper, all these big guys, the Saudi investment fund, Michael Burry, all these people that were buying UNH, they were buying it in Q2. Remember, these are disclosures for June 30th, 6 weeks later after the final date of filing or the date of transactions is when these get filed. And so these guys all bought probably well above 300. I mean, maybe they got that 240 dip that we had in May, but like these guys, like UNH went down to 230 even with all of these guys buying. And that's actually the scary part about this story. It's like all of the big guys were buying, but someone was selling to the big guys. And I don't think retail has enough shares, right? Or just volume to be able to sell to the big guys because the big guys bought a lot of it. So that means that other institutions were dumping. So there's obviously a divide. I mean, you got the Bill Ackmans of the world that fundamentally think UNH is an unethical company and they don't want to think of even supporting UNH. They're not short it, but they're like, I think Bill Ackman said he was psychologically short. But then you have Buffett saying, hey, I'm going to buy 5 million shares. And so is it a nothing burger? Is this enough to get people excited? I don't know. Now, my personal opinion is when Buffett, Tepper, all these guys jump in, it likely means that there's going to be some momentum, just the sheer nature of their brands being associated. By the way, Warren Buffett, we don't even know if he pulled the trigger because he's leaving Berkshire. So it could have been just Berkshire Hathaway, but he's so associated with it that he gets seen as the guy who makes the decisions. That association could be getting people excited. So look, I think it's going to do well from here. I don't know if it keeps its momentum that it's keeping today. Michael Burry degened into call options on UNH, not even just UNH itself, but actually call options, which is incredible. So the fact that you have these many super investors getting in, to me, it feels very likely there's going to be more momentum and more brand awareness for the stock. I don't know if that changes their DOJ investigations, all the other headwinds that they have. But nonetheless, this is something to think about. Now, one thing on UNH, Berkshire Hathaway didn't buy that much. 5 million shares is like $1.5 billion worth right now. Maybe they've been buying more over the past couple of weeks, but they have $350 billion in cash. So it's not like 10, 20, $30 billion of a position or anything like that, or not even $5 billion of a position. It's, nice 5 million shares, but it's not like massive, massive buys. And theoretically, I would imagine he's been buying more at these low levels. But if he's been buying more at these low levels, someone's been selling to him at these low levels because the stock hasn't gone up, right? The only reason the stock has really gone up over the past couple of days is because of this speculation around who was the 13F investor. And, if you bought UNH in the morning yesterday, you've done very well given it ended up being Buffett. So I think that was one of the biggest things we got out of the 13Fs. And that's why we're getting some momentum. I see this headline right now breaking from Sam Altman. Apparently, he's trying to raise trillions of dollars. Of course he is. Sam Altman says he wants to raise trillions of dollars to build data centers. Why not? Now, the thing about this is, remember Sam Altman tried to raise, or I don't know if he actually tried to, but there was a headline in 2023 that he was going to the Saudis to raise $7 trillion to build more data centers. So he's had an incentive to build data centers for a very long time. And he knows he needs a lot of money to be able to do that. I don't know if he's going to be able to raise trillions, but he can definitely raise hundreds of billions. I mean, he's already raised $40 billion in this new OpenAI funding round to be able to do it. So yeah, looks like the spend on NVIDIA and AMD is not going anywhere anytime soon. So there you go. That's what you got from Sam Altman. Now, in terms of some of the other 13Fs, Jim Simons, Renaissance Technologies, Jim Simons did pass away recently, but they filed their Q2 13F, and their top 5 positions are NVIDIA, Palantir, and Hood, or top 3. And then their other 2 are VRSN and Netflix. This is basically my portfolio, Palantir, NVIDIA, and Hood. So kind of cool to see a very large quant fund being able to say, hey, these are the 3 positions. And Hood and Palantir don't make the top 2 positions for many firms. I mean, if you go on these data aggregation websites and type in Palantir or Hood, you are barely going to see any institutional major investors. There's obviously a lot of institutional interest, but not like the Buffetts or the Ackmans of the world getting into these names. So they did sell off some of their positions. So Palantir is a massive position for them, but I think they sold a couple 100,000 shares, or no, it might have been a couple million shares. So they definitely took profits, as they should. I mean, the stock has run up a lot. But you do have Palantir, NVIDIA, and Hood at the top for them. And then their top buys for the quarter were NVIDIA, Netflix, Apple, UNH, and GEV. So this is another fund going into UNH. And their top sales were Broadcom, Hood, Meta, Google, Palantir. They have so much Hood and Palantir that even with those being in the top 5 sales, those are still in the top 3 positions. And then new positions, UNH, Snowflake, Fiserv, Boeing, and then SEC Limited, another company in Southeast Asia. This is getting a lot of momentum. A lot of super investors are picking this one up. So you saw that as one of the new buys as well from more of these super investors. Also, we got another headline on OpenAI. CEO Sam Altman says he'd be interested in buying Google Chrome if the U.S. government forces Google to sell it. That's not really that much of a headline. I think anyone would be, if anyone who had, hundreds of billions of dollars or access to hundreds of billions of dollars would want to buy Chrome. It just shows how valuable Chrome is. If Sam Altman's like, hey, we'll buy it. And by the way, OpenAI is coming out with a browser to compete against Google. They've been rumored to be doing that for like 2.5 years now. But even they know it's hard to beat Chrome. It's not easy. Which is why, Perplexity tried to make that offer. So we're going to see how this results or what this results in for Google, but you do have more bidders coming in to take advantage of Chrome. Speaking of Hood, Brad Gerstner doubles down 359,000 shares in Q2. So he added 120 million of Robinhood in Q1 with 2.8 million shares. They now own 3.2 million shares, and he added another 359,000 shares. So there you go. Doug posted on X he would be willing to buy Chrome if Google is forced to sell it. Yes, I would also be excited to buy Chrome if Google was forced to sell it. So there you go. You got Gerstner adding more Hoodie. Now, let's talk real quick about Grabby Grab. I think we got a winner, folks. I don't know when it's going to break out, but my confidence on this name continues to gain conviction. Howard Marks, this was the big guy we were looking for. He added 1.2 million shares, increased the weighting of the position in the portfolio by 30%. It's a big deal, in my opinion. 10 million shares to now 11.5 million shares. And then you had Bridgewater, not Ray Dalio anymore because he doesn't run it, but Bridgewater added another 4 million shares. They have 10 million in total as well. Grab's institutional float went from 81% in Q1 to now, let me give you the exact number in Q2, 83.29%. That is a 2.29% move in 90 days on the institutional levels. So from that perspective, I think it's hard to kind of deny the level of investor interest from the big guys. I don't know when it's going to pop. I know the earnings are good. I know the stock's not cooperating, but the big guys are saying, hey, we're buying more. And I think the shorts are in control right now. One could argue that the market makers and the shorts are trying to keep it manipulated, allowing a lot of the big institutions to continue to buy. That's just a thesis. I could be wrong on that. But my point is the stock's not reflecting the actual earnings growth. The earnings growth is getting investors interested, and you don't see 81% to 83% in 90 days. 2% on a company that has 4 billion shares outstanding is no joke. And so to me, I think we'll be right on this. I don't know when, but I think we'll be right on this. UNH right here up 10.68%. Nubank, great earnings yesterday. They're up 8.74%. They crushed it. So that one's getting some love. Lyft right here is up a little bit. Lyft also got a bunch of ads. I think Bridgewater added 2 million shares to Lyft as well. Bitcoin right here, 118. Grab 513 in the pre-markets. Nebius down a little bit. Hoodies up a little bit, just above 110. And then Ethereum, 4624 in the pre-markets as well. Also, Grab announced a partnership today with WeRide. So they made an investment in WeRide, which is a autonomous vehicle company in Southeast Asia. CEO Anthony Tan said, we believe AVs can complement our driver network and be deployed in cities with significant driver shortages. So on Grab's 13F today, they came out and took a position in WeRide. So there you go. I think NVIDIA also has a position in these guys as well. So there you go. Those are the updates on Grab, and you are seeing some more momentum on that name. Again, I know the stock hasn't broken out. I don't know when it will, but for me as an actual long-term investor, I want to see the institutional guys showing interest in a name that I think, theoretically should get institutional interest. And it seems like that's where we're getting from them on Grab as well. Okay, so we have some other 13Fs that I want to show that were also very interesting. Again, this is the overall UNH ledger of funds. Warren Buffett, 5 million, Doge and Cox, 4 million, David Tepper, 2 million, Renaissance, 1 million, Michael Burry bought calls, and then Saudi Arabia's public investment fund also bought calls, as you can see right here. Just millions and millions of shares across the board. Norges Banks, by the way, which is one of the largest investment banks in Norway, they bought 12 million shares. So just got a lot of interest in UNH, deep value. Again, the stock has been sold off over the past couple of weeks, so people have been selling to these institutional investors, but nonetheless, they have been increasing their holdings. Wow, we got a headline right here. Oh boy, this is a big one. OpenDoor gets a new CEO, or at least they're beginning the process to find a new CEO. Whoa, that stock's up 10% pre-market. I mean, that stock should be up 10%. Carrie Wheeler has not really been the CEO of choice for OpenDoor. The one thing I will agree with on a lot of the retail investing population for OpenDoor is that Carrie Wheeler sucks as a CEO. Her communication sucks. Her execution has sucked. She's not someone that looks like she cares about retail investors. You know, this is actually really quite fascinating because if retail investors were not harping on getting her fired over the past couple of weeks, I don't know if she would have been fired. It says she's stepping down, but regardless, you got OpenDoor breaking back above 330 for the first time in almost a month, and it looks like this is the catalyst. Carrie Wheeler stepping down. Carrie Wheeler stepping down. Huh. Big for meme stocks. I mean, yeah, it's big for meme stock. Now, look, I don't believe fundamentally in OpenDoor. I'm not a big fan of it. I hope it does well for a lot of the retail that's in it. I do think there's a lot of pumpy dumpiness nature to it. But if they get a new CEO and there's some fundamentals of the business they're able to turn around, you can't deny when you're making an entire paradigm shift in a company, that is something to care about. And that could potentially be changing the narrative. Also on OpenDoor, one other thing that's interesting, Paul Tudor Jones took a stake in OpenDoor. Paul Tudor Jones, another legendary investor, took a stake, not a crazy stake. I think it's like 1 million shares, but still, he bought a bit of OpenDoor. So you do have some people saying, all right, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see what we get there. That seems like an abrupt decision. It definitely feels like retail had an influence. I mean, she hasn't been fired for 2 years, and now retail pumps the stock above 50 cents, and now she's gone. And retail does not like her, by the way. So, I mean, she had this like line on Bloomberg where she was like, we have to harvest the attention. And retail was like, what do you harvest the attention? Like, you know, it did not feel like she was grateful for the new shareholders that saved that stock from a reverse split. And so it looks like they're getting a new CEO. It looks like they are seeming to get a new CEO. Here is what Bill Ackman did with his Q2 13F. Top 5 positions continue to remain Uber, BN, Hilton, QSR, and a new one, which is not new. A lot of people think he just bought Amazon. He bought Amazon at the end of Q1, already talked about it. I think it was like a day after the filings came out, so it's not like it was new. But he does now have 5.8 million shares of Amazon. So Amazon and Google, Bill Ackman's betting on. He also added another 925,000 shares of Google. 925,000 shares of Google. So you got Bill Ackman saying, hey, I'm leaning into Uber, which has been a big winner for him. He bought it at like $60. Or I think it was like $55, 30 million shares. And Google and Amazon, Google has done very well for him. Amazon now seems to be a new position. And that's what we got from Bill Ackman. So overall, after all the filings, and I think we have a couple more coming out today, but after most of the filings have come out, the top 10 buys last quarter were UNH and Google. UNH and Google. And then you had Meta, then you had Amazon, Visa, Berkshire, Apple, TSM, and then right here. Let me move it. UNH, Amazon, Google, Nvidia, Meta, Microsoft, Google, TSM, Apple, and Capital One. Those were your top 10 buys in Q2 of 2025. So there you go. Matt says Guy deserts us yesterday and isn't even the new apartment. We are gonna do the streams in the new apartment at the end of August, likely early September. I get back from Miami August 24th. So yeah, dude, September 1st is a Monday. So it'll be on Monday, September 1st. We'll start it fresh for September. So we still have a bunch of other things to move into the place, but yeah, September 1st, we will officially go live. It'll be fun. I think you guys will enjoy it. So we will do that going into September. So this is what we have on the top 10 buys for the last quarter of Q2. Again, UNH. Now, the other piece of news yesterday that was really interesting, which is affecting Intel. Intel is considering, or I should say the U.S. government is considering it, OpenDoor, by the way, of 15%, a 15% stake in Intel. Which is, that's Labor Day. Oh yeah. So I guess September 2nd. Okay. So we can't open the market on, maybe we'll do an apartment stream on September 1st, even if it's not a market open stream. And so we'll just have fun that day and we'll do a stream from there. U.S. government thinking of buying 15% of Intel. Now, a lot of people are saying, all right, are we China? Are we just going to nationalize every company now? Like what's going on? The U.S. is making deals with NVIDIA and AMD, 15% of revenue, buying 15% of Intel. The counter argument here is that we need some strategic positioning in chips, and Intel is not a failed company, but Intel is obviously not progressing in the way that AMD and NVIDIA are. The problem with AMD and NVIDIA is they don't make their chips in the United States. Intel does. So from that perspective, you are seeing the United States say, hey, if it's a national issue, maybe we do have to make our chips here. And as a result, Intel is up because maybe it does become a strategic asset that the U.S. takes a stake in. Here's a little bit more coverage on that story.
Yeah, Bloomberg first reported this news, Andrew, and now the Wall Street Journal's got it too, which is that according to those outlets, the White House is considering taking an ownership stake in Intel in exchange for an investment. The size of that investment, we don't quite have that information, and we don't have the information of how much of a stake they will take. But here's the statement from the White House. They say discussion about hypothetical deals should be regarded as speculation, they say, unless officially announced by the administration. So the White House downplaying this, but you'll note that's a no comment, Andrew. It is not a denial, and certainly doesn't say that that would be an inappropriate thing to do. For its part, Intel also out with a statement. Intel's statement similarly also talks about speculation. They say Intel is deeply committed to supporting President Trump's efforts to strengthen U.S. technology and manufacturing leadership. We look forward to continuing to work with the Trump administration to advance these shared priorities, but we are not going to comment on rumors and speculation. So no comments around the horn.
It does feel like there's something that's going to happen here because obviously there is going to be some strategic purpose to being able to get this done. I don't know. What do you guys think? Good, bad? Is this necessary for the U.S.? Is this a little bit too much of the government encroaching on private companies? Or is this something where it really is a national security issue? And if it's a national security issue, then maybe the U.S. does need to take a more active approach in regards to Intel. Intel right here up 4%. OpenDoor up 17%, folks. 17% because of the new search for a new CEO. And if they find a really good CEO, someone that can speak to retail and get them excited, I mean, is it crazy to say OpenDoor, it's a $2 billion company, gets to $5 billion, it doubles from here? Not crazy. Now, I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to speculate, but I could see them getting a charismatic CEO who knows how to talk to retail and then actually can flip things around. Yeah, I think this could go higher. When you have a new management team, everything can change. So we're going to see. Maybe this gets dumped as soon as the market opens, right? Volume is already 22 million shares in the pre-market. But we will see how that plays out. Nubank, great earnings yesterday. I was on Tanner Stream for a little bit. I got to call in from the lift when I was in New York, and we got to see some of those results. Nubank absolutely crushed it, so that's great for him. That's one of his holdings in the stock draft as well, and one of his personal holdings. S&P 500 up 0.16%. Lyft right here up 0.21%. Palantir down a little bit in the pre-markets. CoreWeave, wow, down 6%. Here's the thing about CoreWeave. The IPO lockup is gone for CoreWeave. I think it went away on Thursday. So not only was CoreWeave 150 before earnings, the earnings weren't that good. They were good, but they weren't that good. And then you got the IPO lockup that's gone. Stock's at 93. It's been an ugly week for CoreWeave. Doesn't mean the AI data center CapEx trade is gone. It just means on this specific stock, you didn't have the best earnings, and you definitely, had some selling pressure based on insiders likely taking profits, especially because they're up a lot from the IPO, right? They're still up almost 3x. So CoreWeave right here, down about 5%. Grab is flat. Robinhood's up a little bit. Bullish is up a little bit in the pre-markets. D-Local, great earnings. That was up 1.5%. Lemonade's up a little bit. Shopify's flat. And then Ackman, I didn't look at their earnings yesterday, but this stock's down 14%. Another semiconductor play, Applied Materials. So we'll go through their earnings in a little bit, and we'll see what's going on with Ackman. But that one is down. Yes, Google bought a little bit of Wolf. Google bought a little bit. I think it was 3.8% stake or something. This thing was up 59% yesterday. It's down 2% in the pre-markets. I believe Google has taken a 3.8% stake in TerraWolf. Also, NVIDIA added more CoreWeave as per their 13F. But that's why this stock was getting some momentum. Traditionally seen as a Bitcoin miner, now being seen as something they can use with their data centers to help with AI and energy. Google using a lot of energy. Iran, Wolf, a lot of these companies that were Bitcoin miners and still do Bitcoin mining, seeing different use cases. And that's why it seems like some of the large cap tech companies are a bit more interested in what we got there. So that's what we got going on from some of the 13Fs. I'm Beneficial. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I had no purpose yesterday. You and me both. My only purpose was to get the couch and the bed into the apartment. But other than that, I was walking around with no purpose. Gene, thanks for the super chat. Missed you, man. I missed you guys as well. Savvy Investor, thanks for the super chat. My life was absolutely terrible. Some of you guys are exaggerating a little. Some of you guys are being hyperbolic, but I get it because without like, dude, there was so much news yesterday and I was just stuck, just looking at my phone, and my phone was barely charging yesterday. And so that was the other it was just like I had to call the movers and I was on like 2%. Like, it was a very hectic day, but I was seeing all the news come in. I managed to get some tweets out there. So yeah, I agree. It's become part of my life at this point. Chris, thanks for the super chat. I watched an old market open yesterday just to get through it. I appreciate you. Paulie, thanks for the $5 super chat. My withdrawal was way too real yesterday. Rob, thanks for the $5 super chat. Joined the stream, subbed a month ago. Now I need these streams like crack. Also, CoreWeave, sheesh. Yeah, sheesh on CoreWeave. Appreciate you subscribing. And I need the streams just as much as you guys. So deeply, deeply appreciated. Jeremy, thank you for the $50 super chat. Just want to take a minute to wish my wife a happy birthday. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm grateful and proud to be on this journey with you. Is it Christina's birthday? Oh, that is great. Happy birthday to Christina. Jeremy and Christina, both a couple, and both I will be seeing in Miami. So excited to see you guys in Miami. Jeremy, for those that don't know, very early Palantir, and had a bit of a tough life, rough life, personal problems. And then he found the stock market, and Palantir was his first stock he found. And for like so many of us, Palantir has just been an incredible journey. And now his wife is with him investing as well. So happy birthday to Christina. I love it. I will see you guys in Miami in about a week. Got about a week left. Next Saturday, we will be there for the meetup, and it will be a fun way to end out the month of August. So happy birthday to you guys, and thank you, Jeremy, for being here and being part of the journey. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat, guys. Triple V is loaded up on UNH. I think a month ago he sent a super chat and he bought about 50,000 shares of UNH. UNH up 12%, not too bad. I'm not sure if he doubled down from those 50,000 shares, but I do know that was the initial investment. And so not a bad day for Mr. Triple V, as those 50,000 shares are up 10% today. So not too bad. Thank you, Triple V, for being here. And thank you all again for the super chats. Again, deeply, deeply humble. There was just a lot of messages yesterday reaching out about the lack of stream. And, just to know that many people actually care about the content and it's part of your life, that means a lot to me as well. So thank you all for being here. Am I frozen right now? Let me see. Can you guys hear me? Yes, you guys can hear me a little bit, but my mouse is being frozen. So give it a second. Dude, why is this whole week the computer's just been weird, bro? This whole week, this computer has been weird. Okay, you guys can hear me, right? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay, so you can hear me, but my mouse won't let me click to another tab. So give it 5 seconds. It's been so weird the whole week, dude. It's not Starlink. It's not. I think it's kind of the computer, but this is like the most expensive Mac you can get. So I'm like, why is it being like this? Yeah, it's a little. Okay, so the audio is not frozen, but it's lagging a little bit, right? At least the audio is good right here. It's not internet. I would see if it's my internet. It's like, I mean, yes, I have 20 tabs open, but like, why did I pay $4,000 for this computer if I can't have 20 tabs open, dude? Like, this is so annoying every time. I still can't click. It's gonna take a second. At least we're okay. We can see UNH on the screen right now. We can see that there. Jiggle the cord. Yeah, hopefully jiggling of a cord could help it. It's been weird all week. It's been weird all freaking week. Sam B, thank you for the $100 super chat. Bought $400 worth of UNH 280 calls expiring today. Will be worth $22,000 at open. We'll be putting that profit into Chainlink. Please use this $100 to start a Chainlink position. But Sam, I'm going to be looking more into Chainlink. A lot of people have reached out to me about that asset from a crypto perspective, and I think we'll have a deep dive on Chainlink eventually as well, and we'll try to get some people to educate more folks about the asset. So definitely we'll look into it. But congrats on UNH. Congrats on UNH. Okay, my mouse is back. Cool. My mouse is back. Yeah, dude, for everyone that loaded up on UNH, I mean, look, it is worked out in terms of conviction. My question is, will the big guys that are investing be enough to get people excited about it? I don't have the answer to that question yet. I don't think any of us know. But if it does become the reason why people get excited about it, then I think UNH goes up. I think UNH probably ends up getting some momentum. OpenDoor right here, 15%, 350. Hoodie, 110.75. Palantir, 180. SoFi, 23.28. And you got UNH right there at $302. Up about 12% in the pre-markets. Omar, thanks for the super chat. Never miss another market open. You have to be warned. LOL. Can't wait to see you in Miami. And 19-year-old investor. Congrats on getting into the markets at 19, dude. So the person I was having dinner with yesterday, who was from the Nasdaq, he's the head of intelligence and data center sales in the Nasdaq, and we were talking about retail participation in the markets. He's the person who got me this awesome pullover. So Stephen, if you're watching, hello. Thank you for the pullover. Thank you for a great dinner. He got medium rare on his steak. I got medium well. So, although I know two Stevens in my life now that are medium rare fans. I think they're both wrong about their decisions, but it is what it is. Medium well. I feel like that is the truth, but I can't change the world. Yeah, we were talking about retail participation, right? We were talking about retail participation, how much retail has become invested. And given he works at the Nasdaq, he sees a lot of the trends in the market and what retail is doing, because the Nasdaq is one of the largest exchanges in the world. And he basically told me retail is a force that has a voice now in the market, right? You cannot think about the stock market without thinking about retail. And that has led to massive trading volumes across the board. That's obviously why Robinhood's business has done so well. But that's also led to people like Omar, who's 19 years old, who are now investing. And it's like, and when you have more and more people like that are getting into the equity markets and then eventually the options market, that's just big news for liquidity across the overall stock market, which is a good thing, because the more liquid stock markets are, the more chances there are for people to participate. So not too bad at all. NVIDIA right here, 181 in the pre-markets. Okay, so I think we covered most of the 13Fs. UNH was the big buy. Google and Amazon were big buys. A lot of China was sold off. Some people added more to BABA. But like David Tepper, for example. So he sold China in Q1. He added China in Q2 by adding BABA. He didn't officially sell all of his China, but he sold some of his China, and then he added a little bit more. So you do have some people that are deciding to get back into BABA. And then again, UNH was the major one that got a shopping spree as more and more people decided to pile into that one. So I think those are the main things. Yeah, Dan Loeb, Amazon, that was one of his main positions. NVIDIA, 5.79%. NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, and UNH seems to be the core focus in this Q2. Now, if today's stock market action, it is a Friday, is a little wonky, it is because 2.9 trillion of notional options are going to be expiring today. 2.9 trillion. You have 1.1 trillion of SPX or S&P 500, SPX index fund options. You have single stock options to the tune of 715 billion. And you have non-S&PS index funds of 96 billion, non-SPY ETFs of 285 billion. So you have about 3 trillion of options that are expiring today. This also could have been part of the reason why the markets didn't tank yesterday based on the PPI. Although PPI was bad, maybe the market makers kind of held the market up because they wanted to alleviate some of the option positions that they have expiring today. So at 9:30, I don't know what to expect, because throughout the day, you have a lot of options that are going to expire. Maybe it's a nothing burger. Maybe it's, create some weird algorithmic action. I mean, who knows? Maybe Hood going down 5% this week, which I still don't understand why. The July metrics were amazing. There was no insider sales this week. And Webull and IBKR followed with the downtrend. Like, it just didn't make sense. And maybe it had to do with, there was a lot of options that market makers didn't want to make into the money by the end of the week. I mean, you just got a lot of wonky stuff happening this week. So I didn't know we had OPEX this week. If I did, I think that would have explained some of the weirder algo stuff that was happening. But because of that, there might be some things to watch out for later throughout the day. CoreWeave, again, getting hit right now. I do think the insider selling on that is probably starting to take off as the lockup period has ended. So post IPO, there's a lockup. Insiders have to hold their shares. That lockup ends. Insiders get a chance to sell their shares. And as a result, that could be leading to some pain. Even the perception of that lockup opening up could also be leading to people selling it off. S&P 500, 645. Now, Tom Lee did say this week we have a shot to see S&P 650. We're not there yet. Today, if that were to happen, that would be incredible. That would be a massive day on the S&P 500. But he still feels, even with a crappy PI, we still have the momentum to continue doing well.
Which you said was going to be the start of a pretty good rally, which it kind of looked like it was. Now what?
I think that the arguments and elements for a rally to continue are in place, because even today, with a hot PPI print, the stock market is basically flat. So we had a down open. I think investors bought that dip. Part of it is I don't think that the PPI is sending a message that inflation is soaring. There are some things to sort of cut out of that number.
Sure, I agree, and people have said that throughout much of the day, but it seems to have changed the conversation, if nothing else, about the amount of rate cut we might get in September. Is that fair?
Yes, it's very fair. That is correct. But if, as we think about the rest of this year and next year, I think that the thing that's the worst case for investors is Fed hiking. That the Fed does nothing between now and year end, I think some would actually argue that's half full because the economy can handle these higher rates. But if the Fed does 25 or 50 between now and year end, really to normalize real interest rates, that's actually positive for stocks. So I think unless this was going to bring in the odds of a hike, I think that's why markets had a muted reaction.
Well, what if they don't do anything? I mean, Steve Leisman, who's going to join us in a minute, made the argument earlier today that this changes the conversation from 25 or 50 to 25 or nothing. What happens if we...
Which I think he's right about. Yesterday or 2 days ago, the probabilities on CME were 25 or 50. It was almost confirmed that we would have a chance of, it was 100% confirmed we're going to get one rate cut. Now it's back to a 7% chance of no rate cut and a 92% chance of a rate cut. So that whole 50 bips conversation, that flipped immediately with PPI. I think it's possible, but it feels unlikely. We're going to get Jackson Hole with Powell in a couple weeks or next week on the 22nd. But hopefully 25 is still in the cards.
We go on the side of nothing. Can this market stand up under that?
Yes. I mean, because number one, and I'm sure Steve's going to talk about this, that the economy doesn't seem to be suffering under the weight of these current interest rates, even though the Fed is much higher than the rest of the world on policy rates. And the second part of that is, of course, that if the Fed does 25, it's still a dovish move.
Well, it could be a hawkish.
All right. So there you go. Tom Lee saying still, if we get 25 bips, and I agree with him, it's still going to be bullish. Obviously, we get 50, that would be very bullish. But one could argue 50 would be hawkish because there's too much, or 50 would be bearish because there's too much weakness in the economy if they do 50. I wouldn't agree with that, but it feels like 25 we will still get. For those asking why I'm not in the new apartment, remember yesterday I was not actually moving. I was just getting furniture in. Moving will take a couple weeks. I'm going to be in Miami next week, so it'll take a little bit to get adjusted. But just got the furniture yesterday. And yeah, we will have the official apartment intro stream September 1st, which is not a market day because it's Labor Day, but we'll still do a stream that day. And then we'll get into it. BM&R right here, up about 0.4% as well in the pre-markets. We're going to see how this one does. It hit 71 at one point this week. Now it's down to $60, but still an incredible week. SBET, by the way, they also bought they now have 700,000 Ethereum. So they are catching up to Mr. Tom Lee's BM&R in terms of Ethereum, and they ended up buying more. Beef Lotto, thank you for the super chat. Celebrating 10 years of marriage with my wife, Evelina, today, and because of you, Palantir is paying for dinner. Beef Lotto, thank you for being here. I believe those are Swedish kronas. So thank you from being all the way from Sweden and being part of the stream. Congrats on the anniversary. And yeah, Palantir paying for dinner. Not too bad. It's been a hell of a story. It's been a hell of a journey. I sometimes forget how many people across the world have been part of this journey and part of the story. How many people across the world come to these streams. I mean, again, really, really humbling yesterday to see that many people care about the content. And I just hope that, the gratitude I have for everyone actually being here every day is what keeps me going and keeps this grind going. All right, folks, here we go. Friday, August 15th, 9:30 a.m. The market open is back and the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 645. 645 on the S&P. UNH opens up 10% on the day. $300.95. UNH is green. OpenDoor was up 20%. Now it's up 10%. So OpenDoor gets sold off 10% from the highs of the pre-market. The CEO is leaving. Carrie Wheeler, she's stepping down. That's very bullish in my opinion, even if you're not a fan of OpenDoor, the company. A new CEO could potentially change the entire company and switch up the entire narrative. So you do have OpenDoor, that's up about 11% based on that news. Nubank, 14%. Wow. Nubank getting some love. Great earnings from Nubank yesterday. Absolutely incredible results. They continue to grow inside of Latin America, and they are crushing it. That's up 13.5%. D-Local's up 4%. This is up 40% for the week. Robinhood goes down 0.5% on the day. Palantir goes down 1% on the day. Some of these high beta names are getting hit. It would not surprise me if AppLovin is down. AppLovin is slightly up. It's not down, but it's slightly up. Grabby Grab's up a little bit. BMNR is down a little bit. Reddit, is that one up? We did have some super investors buy more Reddit yesterday. 242, that's down. Oh, Chase Coleman of Tiger Global. He bought 11 million shares of Webull. 11 million shares of Webull. He kept his 92 million shares of Grab, did not add to the position, did not sell it. He has 92 million shares, but he did buy 11 million shares of Webull. And I think he also bought 150,000 shares of Circle. So Circle and Webull were two of the main positions that he added to. Circle right here is up about 2%. Take Two, that's down 0.5%. Rocket Lab is down 0.5%. Archer, that's up 1.2. ARM is up a little bit. S&P, are we green on the S&P at the open? I think we are. We are green. 645, relatively flat, but we are green. Yes, he also did buy Zillow, correct. He also did buy Zillow. Zillow right here, 84.94. UNH, what do we got? Are we still up 10%? UNH is, all right, it's up 8.7. Today we're going to see how many people buy because of Buffett and Tepper. 8.7%, but that is green. JetBlue, is that up? JetBlue is, wow. Dude, JetBlue hasn't broke $5 in a minute. All the airlines had a great week, I think, because of oil prices, but JetBlue has not broke $5 in a minute. So there you go. Not bad. Delta's up. United's up. All of these are up. UNH right here, 297. Meta's pumping. Meta, we're trying to get to 800. We're at 787. Trying to get there. Yes, Grab did invest in WeRide. That is a deal they made today as per their 13Fs. WeRide is up 3%. WRD, NVIDIA has also invested in these guys. They are doing autonomous driving in Southeast Asia. So that is green. HIMS, down 2%. There was some headline on HIMS yesterday that was not good in regards to lawsuits and Novo, and FDA was putting out some new regulations. And so HIMS has just been dealing with a lot of different controversies. The stock's still up a lot this year. It's just, it's not up as much as it was. HIMS is almost below a $10 billion market cap, which given their growth to me is a bit aggressive to the downside. But HIMS right here, down about 2%. Oscar is up 6%, likely as a sympathy play against UNH. Oscar right there. There you go. 1542. That's green. Lemonade should probably be up. Lemonade is also up. That is also in the insurance space. AMAT, I did not look at their earnings. I know they beat on the top and the bottom. I saw that. So I don't know why they're down 12%, but they are down 12%. Palantir, are we getting a dip? We are getting a bit of a dip, down 3% on Palantir. So Palantir and Hood both falling right here, to me, is indicative of some high beta trades starting to see a little bit of weakness, which is fair. I mean, both of these companies have done very well. But also, again, for those that are just joining the stream, $2.9 trillion of options are expiring today. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of Palantir calls. I mean, I will go to any strike and we'll probably see hundreds of thousands of calls on Palantir today, August 15th. And so you're going to see some wonky price action with all those calls expiring, either in the money or out of the money. Yeah, dude, the 180 call itself has 15,000 open interest. 7,000 for 160. You have 43,000 calls that are open for the 190 on Palantir. That's down 83% right now because Palantir is down 2% and they're expiring today. I mean, you got a lot of calls that are going to be expiring. By the way, someone bought 1,500 calls of Intel at the money for tomorrow for 1 cent. Those calls are up like 10,000% because just so happened that Trump, or the rumor was that Trump was going to take a 15% stake in Intel via the U.S. government's basically sovereign wealth fund, I think is the way they would do it. And yeah, that person made a lot of money. So who knows? Maybe it was just a coincidence, but they are definitely up on those Intel calls. Nubank right here, 13%. That's green. OpenDoor, that's up 10%. Lyft is up 1%. Bullish, that IPO, 75.25. Robinhood still down in Ethereum, 4,600. MicroStrategy, is that one down? Dude, what is going on with MSTR? Why is this thing disappointing? Like, why is this so bad? They didn't do any at the monies. They didn't do any dilution. Like, it's really annoying me that Bitcoin is doing what it's doing and MicroStrategy is horrible. And then Misty, as a result, ends up getting nuked because of MicroStrategy. Like, why is Misty at 17? But why is Misty down from 21 to 17 in 1 week when Bitcoin hit all-time highs? Like, I know MicroStrategy has its own different dynamics, but still, I don't think they didn't do any share offerings. So, like, unless Saylor did do share offerings, and we don't know about it yet, because if he did, that would easily dilute the stock. But might be seeing some erosion right there, and that's why you're getting hit on MSTR. BMNR, that one's down. Again, BMNR, Hood, Palantir, option expiration day, high beta stocks. Those are getting some volatility to the downside. SBET, which now has 700,000 Ethereum. That one, wow. Why is that down 8% after increasing their Ethereum? Not sure exactly, but that one is red. SBET now has 728,000 Ethereum. That is the exact number. And they raised 2.6 billion through a pipe, and ATM and direct offerings. Maybe that's the reason they're down, because they might have diluted this morning, but I feel like they did that over the past couple of weeks. But that could be the reason why that one's getting hit. PayPal. Okay, so there's a stat about PayPal I was going to tell you guys. 69.90 on PayPal. PayPal. FundStrat. So Tom Lee, he reorganized the Granny Shots ETF. They took out PayPal and they added Broadcom. So PayPal is no longer in Tom Lee's FundStrat ETF, but Broadcom is. I'll give you the full list of the rebalances, but they got rid of PayPal and they added Broadcom. Is Google green? Google 205, baby. Haven't seen 205 in a minute. 205. Again, this was the second largest stock in the entire market as per Q2 that was added. So for everyone who felt like they were going crazy when this thing was at 150, 160, thinking, how could it be so cheap? You weren't alone. You were not alone. There was a lot of big money that was thinking the same thing you were thinking, and they put a lot of big money behind the name, which is why Google is getting some momentum right here, up 1%. Whereas UNH, are we still holding 10%? UNH is still holding 10%, 10.7. OpenDoor, they got a 20% surge. They are now at 9%. So they got, or they have to give back at least 10 out of that 20%, but they are still up a little bit. Palantir right here down 2.2%. Is Grab making a move? Grab 518, not too bad. Making a little bit of a move. I have been buying Grab over the past couple of days. I think I bought another 2,000 shares yesterday off of some of the 13F filings. And the reason I bought is not even because of the price. Like, the price to me is irrelevant. Whether you pay 480 or 520 or 530 or 505, unless you're day trading it and you need every penny to make a difference. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. This stock, in my opinion, is a buy. What matters to me is that the big guys also see what a lot of us in retail are seeing. And at some point, it becomes inevitable when you have that much big money flowing into the name. If the company can put up the earnings growth, which it is not out of the question that Grab grows 35% by Q4. They're growing at 22% right now. Next quarter is likely going to be 25, 27%. They kind of have to grow that much to meet their revenue guidance. I think the stock will follow. So we're going to see. We're going to see how that plays out. Is Hood running? Hoodie 112, baby. Okay, so Hood going the opposite of some of the other high beta names. That's going green, 112.65. There you go. That is up 2%. Trade Desk, they lost Walmart as one of their exclusive partners yesterday. That's why that stock was down 3%. It is up 2% right here. But Walmart is now not an exclusive partner with the Trade Desk. And that's why that one got hit. All right, so Grab is moving. Hood is moving. Rocket Lab, is that green? Rocket Lab, that one's slightly red. AMAT, I don't know why that's crashing. It has to be because of guidance, because they beat on the top and the bottom. We'll try to see what's going on there. Walmart, yeah, they didn't lose Walmart completely, but the deal is now non-exclusive from my understanding. And that's why I think the stock got hit yesterday. Walmart right here, that is flat. What do I think about ServiceNow? I don't really have that many opinions on this. I know Tanner likes it a lot. In the software space, they're a great company. They are not growing as much as some of the other software names like a Palantir. Granted, I don't think they need to grow as fast as a Palantir, but in this AI market, people are trying to allocate capital to things that are in hyper growth mode, because AI should be a tailwind for hyper growth. And honestly, none of the SaaS companies are doing it. Salesforce, Adobe, ServiceNow, outside of Palantir, which is why I think a lot of the other SaaS companies like Salesforce have not really been getting a bid. Salesforce right here is up 2.3% though. As we get into the market open, Tesla 334, that's flat. Tesla's flat. Okay, so you got some Tesla that is down. Why is your price target on Grab only $10 while everyone is buying? Because I'm trying to be conservative. Also, 10 is a double from here. I know we've been in a market where everything's been really bullish, but a double is pretty damn good. And, if you're going to pike an individual stock and take all the risks that comes with buying an individual stock, a double, and I'm calling for it call it midway next year, 2027 is the, so like basically got 18 months for this thing to double, which is not easy in the stock market for a stock to do that, especially when there's 4 billion shares outstanding and it's not as big of a name as some of the other big tech companies. So yeah. But by the way, $10 would be a $40 billion market cap, which I think is reasonable for Grab. Now, do I think it probably should be worth around 50 to 55 billion? Yes, but it could go above 10, but my price target, which I think is not even that conservative. I think it's slightly even aggressive a little bit, a double in 18 months. If we get there, I would be very, very happy. Nubank right here, 13%. That's green. CoreWeave still down 3%. Nebius down about 0.5% right here. CoreWeave again getting hit from that lockup period opening up. Rigetti, is that one down? They had earnings 2 days ago. That one's down 7%. Looks like the market is not that excited. A double is so 2024. Dude, a double is really good. An individual stock going up like 30% is really good. So I feel like I am slightly being aggressive on my price target, but I think, my expectations are there because I think they can grow. It's not a hood or a pound here though. It's not a 10x. Maybe eventually over the lifetime of the company, but not in 2.5 years. It's really hard to find those names, but I think a double is possible. Zillow 85.74, JetBlue 5.18, Delta 59.85. That's green. Meta's up. Where is Microsoft? We did have super investors add some of their Microsoft 5.22. More of them added Google and Meta than Microsoft though. So Microsoft was not the biggest Mag 7 add that we see. Quantum's dumping today. QBTS, that is down as well. Wow. All the quantum names are dumping. All of them almost down 5 to 7%. IONQ is down about 3%. BMNR is getting smacked. Maybe Tom Lee's diluting today. It is a Friday. You got options expiring. Maybe he's dumping some shares. You're going to find out after the bell if he is. He has $20 billion worth of shares that he can dump. And that's one thing that everyone just has to remember about BMNR. NVIDIA right here, that's down 1%. Arista's up a little bit. S&P still green. Big Bear is down 3%. Kava, after a 20% week down, is up 0.5%. Is ETH tanking? That could also be hurting BMNR. ETH is, I don't want to say tanking, but dude, this thing was at 47.92 48 hours ago. It's at 45.79. So they're definitely not letting it easily get above all-time highs, which is, I think, 48.70. And that could be a reason why it's coming on. Beyond Meat is filing for bankruptcy, which is pretty incredible. I think I told you guys the story a long time ago. I tweeted it yesterday, but I was on a date with a girl once. I already know the comments. A date? What? There's a date? There's no way he went on a date. Yes, I went on a date with a girl once. You mean a guy? No, it was a girl. Okay. Trust me. I know it was a girl. Okay? Trust me. I know it was a girl. Anyway, so I was so cringe. But I was on a date with a girl once and we were getting sushi. And then, and she was like, oh, I want to get into investing. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want to invest in? And she was like, oh, I want to do like ethical investments. I was like, oh, Elon, environment, right? Like Elon, Tesla, like that's like, she's like, no, Elon's a fascist. I was like, okay. And then she was like, he's racist, sexist, xenophobic, fascist. I was like, okay, so what do you think is the best? What do you think is the best like ethical investment? She was like, well, I like Beyond Meat. So I hope she enjoyed her ethics, because I think Tesla was like 220 at the time when we had that conversation. Beyond Meat was a lot higher. I think it was like almost $11. Yeah, that one didn't work out. So, I mean, I'm just saying, bro, Elon's a fascist, okay, but Beyond Meat, they don't make you any money. So if you really think Elon's a fascist and that Tesla's hurting the environment and they're not an ethical investment, I guess. Yeah, the irony about investing is if it doesn't make you money, forget ethics, right? Like to an extent, obviously, there's nuance to this, but like if you're losing money, people start forgetting about ethics really quickly. And of course, everyone wants to invest in something that's ethical and make money at the same time. There's a lot of conflicts when you try to do that. But I mean, if you're losing your net worth in the name of ethics, you start thinking about your ethical philosophy at that point. So Beyond Meat, that one is filing for bankruptcy. Robinhood right here, 112. Grab is breaking out above 520. All right, so they're giving it a little bit of love today. 522 on Grab. That's up 1.78%. I don't even want to see the comments. I don't even want to see the comments after that. I see a lot of LMAOs though. So hopefully it gave people a little bit of a chuckle in the morning. Ethically losing money. Yeah, dude. I mean, like, look, I have my own ethical considerations as well. I know a lot of people don't invest in Meta because, they don't believe in Zucks and advertising and stealing your data, all that stuff. I get it. But there's a lot of ethical ways to justify Meta. If you're a small business, you're a pizza shop, you need advertising to be able to get customers. You employ people. Their livelihood is based on you selling pizza. If Meta is the way that you find customers because Zucks is harvesting people's data to sell pizza, that's a pretty ethical way to think about Meta's advertising. Now, there's the counter-ethical perspective to that. The point is it's always subjective. But in her opinion, subjectively, Elon was a fascist and Beyond Meat was a more ethical investment. And that one just didn't end up playing out. I think the way she thought it would play out. Oscar right here, that's up 6%. JetBlue still up 2%. Circle's up 2%. S&P goes red. S&P goes red. SoundHound, this is up like 30% for the week, right? SoundHound 1562, that one's down. SoundHound stock year to date, or at least over the past 5 days, is up 13%. Over the past month, it's up 40%. Today, it is down 5.5%. NVIDIA 179. All right. Again, you got a lot of options expiring today. I think I think they're going to be wonky with some of this price action. Why should Nvidia be down 1% today? I don't have a reason for it. I don't think anyone does. Trump's investing in Intel. That's like, so it's like a lot of this is a bit algorithmic in my opinion. Hoodie goes red. Like, why did Hood just go to 112.75? Now it's back at 110. It's like, I think this whole week for a lot of these high beta names, it's just one of those weeks in August where you can't really explain the price action on a fundamental level. UNH still holding 10%, 11.2. 11.2. That is green. OpenDoor now up 5%. And then Google still holding up 0.5% as well. So there you go. How do you respond to people? How do you respond to people saying Palantir is not ethical? I mean, look, there's a lot of different considerations to think about it, right? People don't know. I mean, I can understand why people think Palantir is not ethical in a variety of different use cases with their targeted drones, and Karp is out here saying, hey, we have to embrace the kill chain, and people think, oh, this guy all he cares about is killing the enemies, and so there's all these different interpretations of Palantir, but there's a lot of good stuff Palantir does as well, and a lot of that stuff I would argue that people think is not good. You have to ask yourself, hey, like if there's a certain type of demographic or an enemy in a certain region that is threatening a population, how do you reconcile with that? Do you go to war with them? Is using drone fare a way so that other people don't actually go into war? I mean, there's so many nuances to it, right? When it comes to Palantir. And a lot of people don't know Palantir works with national organizations to stop human trafficking. I mean, there's just so many things that Palantir has also done that would objectively be seen as ethical. And then there's other things that are definitely questionable. And I think you have to have your own moral compass to justify that. But there's a lot of different ways to consider it. And again, if you don't think they're ethical, don't invest. I've never debated someone on Palantir's ethics because, wow, Palantir is getting hit today, though, down 4%. If you don't think they're ethical, don't invest in them. Very simple. If you think that providing data platforms to the NHS in the UK, which can help people that are on a 6-week or in some cases 6-month backlog so that they can get the care and treatment that they need is ethical, and you don't know how to reconcile that with Palantir helping the DoD and potentially killing terrorists because you don't believe in targeted warfare is not ethical. I mean, those are things that you have to reconcile by yourself as an investor. But my conclusion on it is more so, hey, the good far outweighs the bad. And the bad is very subjective because at the end of the day, you got to have peace through strength. And if you don't want people actually going out and fighting a war, but you need AI capabilities to deter from collateral damage that usually ends up happening in traditional warfare, then that's where these AI systems become a lot more ethical. Meta right here, 784, that is green. And also, is Meta more an ethical company than Palantir? Meta harvesting the world's data and selling targeted ads against it, making teenage girls feel like they need to get plastic surgery to live up to unrealistic body expectations. Is that ethical more than Meta or more than Palantir? Like, these are, Apple having slave labor in China to build their iPhones, which we all know they do. Apple will never say they do, but we all obviously know they do that. Is that ethical? So these are hard questions to answer. So I think everyone else has to take their own interpretation of how to deal with these questions. Hood promoting gambling essentially with prediction markets. Is that ethical? These are the questions that I think people need to think about. Roblox. Okay, so Roblox got upgraded by Oppenheimer today to 150. But speaking of ethics, there was a report that came out yesterday, and this is not a new report. This has been a report that has been initiated many times. Roblox is being seen as a hunting ground for child predators because there's a lot of kids on this platform, and there have been many reports. Hindenburg, their first short report a year ago, was about the fact that there are pedophiles that are on this platform and that are hunting for kids. And Roblox has denied it as much as they could, but these allegations keep coming up. And you had another allegation 2 days ago come out. So I don't know if that's the reason why it's down 9%, but that could be one of the narratives that has been hurting the stock. Although the stock is up from $30 2 years ago. So it still has 3x'd, even with some of those allegations being up there. Nvidia, that one's still down about 0.5%. Now it's down more. Nvidia and Palantir just getting nuked right here. Nvidia down 1.7, Palantir down 3.7. And Hoodie goes down as well. All the quantum names getting destroyed. D-Wave down 8%. IONQ down 4%. Bitmine, nasty day, down 9.5. Would not surprise me if Mr. Tom Lee is diluting a little bit. But that one is getting hit. Nubank, that is green. Wow, Nubank, 1387, baby. 15%. Not a bad earnings. That's up. Again, it is OPEX day. That could be creating a lot of pain across the entire market, but you're seeing algos. You're seeing algos come in. Ethical corporation is an oxymoron. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. This is why when people get on Palantir, I'm like, dude, like Google does a lot of bad things. Microsoft does a lot of bad things. Like, and again, when I say bad, I say it in a a non-objective way, because obviously it's always, it's bad is based on how you interpret it. But there's also a lot of people that are employed by Google and Microsoft, and they pay a lot of taxes. I mean, there's just so many different things that these companies contribute to, and you can make an ethical argument out of anything. You can make a non-ethical argument out of everything. But that's the beauty of the stock market. If you can choose to invest, or you can choose to not invest. But it's hard to just tie ethics to investing in and of itself. Adobe right here, that's up 1.8. Bumble, they did an offering this week. That's up 1.8 as well, even though it was down 10%. And then SoFi down 2.25. Down 2.25. CoreWeave again, still getting hit. I will check the draft, the stock draft. Today's probably an ugly day for everybody on the stock draft. Definitely my portfolio is going to be taking a hit. AMD, by the way, where is that one? Is AMD green? AMD, that's down 2%. AMD is also green. Google does a lot of bad things, but here you are using TikTok on Android, ordering DoorDash. Yeah, I mean, dude, TikTok is not the most ethical platform in the world, but people love to, it's just like, it's really hard to pin a company down on just one ideological understanding of ethics. And that's why there's, buyers and sellers of different stocks. They get to choose. Matt right here is up 20%. I'm up 15. Steve's down 0.5%. Hims is hurting him today, along with Salesforce. Tanner's up 7. Trade Desk kind of hurt him this week. And Chris was down 3. Now he's down 1. UNH getting some recovery. He's almost break even now on UNH. Interesting. Apple's not down. That is correct. Apple, again, we're up 18% on Apple. I contributed to Apple's earnings yesterday by buying the stupid phone. And so I guess hopefully I can help Apple on their Q3 report, but that's up 17.5% in the portfolio, 15% overall total for me. And then Matt still up 19%. Epsilera still doing great for Matt. And ASTS crushed earnings this week, along with SoFi still doing his thing. And Amazon, he's up 7%. Celsius, he's also up 30%. Celsius, again, has had a great year. Celsius right here, basically flat on the day, kind of been a hedge against a lot of growth volatility. Palantir 174, and then Robinhood trying to get to 112. Do you put cases on your phone? I think I should this time, because last time I didn't and it cracked so bad. And I think part of the reason the battery has not been working is because like look at the back of this phone, bro. Like it's literally exposed. I feel like I can't even blame Apple to an extent. I think I kind of messed up the battery. But also it feels like Apple put in their nice little update to make sure the battery isn't as good as it was before, as they do every couple of years. Palantir right here down 3%. But yeah, I should probably get a case for this new phone. I did not get Apple Care, dude. Apple Care is for people that aren't confident in themselves. So no, didn't get Apple Care. I just like it's for people that aren't confident in themselves. Like every time they offer app, I'm like, no, I'm confident in myself. And then you break your phone and you're like, I don't have this stupid Apple Care. But no, I'm not paying for Apple Care, bro. We're not paying for insurance on no, I should be enough of an adult to not ruin my phone. But I wasn't on the last phone. So yeah, I'll just be getting a case. Beyond Meat still down 4%, Bitmine down 7%, Ethereum down 2%, Microsoft down 0.5%, D-Wave down 8%. Apple Care costs almost as much as the phone every 2 years. Yeah, dude. I mean, Apple Care has never been the most exciting proposition to me. If a Putin-Trump deal is to made today, S&P will fly. All right, so this Putin-Trump thing is definitely going to be important. He's in Alaska, or he's on the way to Alaska right now. He got on the flight 30 minutes ago. He gave a little bit of an interview before the flight, and he basically said, hey, Zelensky's going to have to cooperate to get a deal done. I don't know, dude. I'm a bit skeptical that there's going to be any meaningful deal that gets done. I mean, we know what Putin wants. He wants 30% of Ukraine, and I don't think he's willing to give it to him. So, but it's definitely going to be something that the entire market is looking at. If there is the potential of a deal getting broke, like a real deal, yeah, I think S&P will fly. The odds of that, though, I don't know. Nubank above 14. Wow, Nubank doing its thing. 16% on the day. Not bad at all. You're getting some momentum right there. CoreWeave, that's at 100 now. It's up a little bit, but it was down for the week. And so that one is starting to get a little bit of momentum. There you go. Shout out to Tanner, Newbank. Shout out to Tanner, 17% green. Not bad at all. Bitmine right here, that's down 7%. IONQ down 3%. Microsoft down a little bit. Grab up 1.6%. Salesforce up 3%. And then ServiceNow down again. Retail sales today was very important. Retail sales came in 0.5% versus 0.5% expected. So July seems like people are buying stuff, which is good. And it doesn't look like consumer trends are going down in any meaningful way. Oh, we do get Michigan consumer data. Yeah, you're right. We do get that in about 4 minutes. So we'll take a look at that. We'll see what consumers are saying. Robinhood back to 112. Again, Robinhood being super weird today. 108 to 112, back to 110, now back to 112. You just got a lot of things going back and forth. Reddit right here, 238. Reddit goes down 2%, then Palantir, 175.89. Is OpenDoor still up 5%? OpenDoor is up 8%, 330. Is anyone convinced on buying OpenDoor based on the search for a new CEO? I mean, I feel like I'm not chasing it, but it definitely feels like a compelling reason to get excited for them. And the question is, do you buy if you're chasing it before they announce the new CEO? Because if they announce another suit, it's not going to work out. If they announce a real CEO that can change things around, that would be very exciting. But again, the underlying business, there's no margins. Like this is not like, and I don't think rate cuts fix that problem. So I don't know. We got to see. We got to see if this ends up actually playing out. By the way, we do have some big news on Palantir, folks. Alex Karp. This is going to be the first time he's ever been in public like this. He will be at the Olin Summit, and he will be talking to the Olin podcast boys, Jason Chamath, David Friedberg, and Sachs, likely about Palantir and all the other issues that they talk about.
Sometimes traditional stock analysis just lets you down. And that's how I feel about the stock of Palantir.
$1 billion in quarterly revenue for the first time ever. The stock has just ripped.
They have delivered here beyond the expectation, and the expectations were obviously remarkably high.
Karp's the kind of guy who kicks your you-know-what, and then he gets in your face afterwards, and he tells you that he just did that.
As usual, I've been cautioned to be a little modest about our bombastic numbers.
If you work for Palantir, everyone knows you're good.
Our strategy on AI is to just take the whole market. We have no pricing strategy.
And to all supporters of Palantir, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. And to all people who've hated on us, enjoy your coal.
Oh, God. Alex, never a dull moment with you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I did not expect Karp to agree to doing the All In podcast. That'll be a big one. The last time he's done anything similar to this was Bill Maher. I think it was about a year ago. And Bill Maher is a certain type of audience. All In is like big on business and tech. And, again, going back to this whole argument about ethics, there's a lot of people in business and tech that don't like Palantir or don't think they're an ethical company. And so I think that a lot of people have respect for it, but there's also a lot of people that don't understand it from an ethical perspective or wouldn't even all their work they do with ICE and immigration. You have a lot of people in big tech that are liberal, right? And that just could never see themselves working at Palantir or understanding and investing in the company. And so I don't think Karp has ever hit that audience, that business tech audience that respects him, respects the company, respects technology in general, respects their moat over 20 years of building the company, but also that section of the audience that doesn't really understand what Palantir does, even from a technical perspective or from an ethical perspective. I think this is an opportunity for him to speak to that audience in more depth. So that'll be happening in California in September. Yeah, Jason Calacanis, dude, this guy hates Meta. Even yesterday, he was tweeting that no one should be buying Meta stock. It's the most, again, speaking of ethics, he literally said it's the most unethical investment ever. He's been harping on Meta for years. He's been wrong about the stock. I don't know how he thinks about Palantir, but I wouldn't say he's the biggest fan. Oh yeah, we do have that video back when the stock was like 40, 50 bucks. He was making fun of it, and David Sachs was saying it's a good buy. Yeah, I remember that was September 2024. He did a whole podcast on his show about why Palantir is super overvalued and not the best company. That has not necessarily worked out. So we're going to see how that interview actually goes. S&P, are we green or red? Are we green or red? We are red. I think we just got consumer sentiment. I think we just got it. Probably not good. Let me see. How bad are the expectations? Let's pull it up. Okay, here we go. looking like it's not the best.
For us. Hey, Rick.
Yes, let's start out with University of Michigan sentiment. Now, these are August preliminary numbers, so they'll change in a couple weeks. I'll tell you right off the bat, they're sequentially lower. We're expecting a headline number around 62. Our last final month read was 61.7, 58.6, 58.6. That's the weakest since May when it was 52.2 and April when it was 52.2. Now, if we look at current conditions, 60.9. Our last look was 68. 60.9, also the weakest since May. You remember, April, May had some very low reads. These are surveys. They get affected by a lot of things. Now, if we look at expectations, what lies ahead, this is the closest to the rearview mirror. 57.2, 57.7 was our last month July final read, and we were expecting a number around 58 and change. 57.2, that would be the weakest also since May when it was well below that at 47.9. Maybe the most important aspect of these is the inflation numbers. They're coming back to a reality. On the 1 year, 4.9% follows 4.5%. 4.9 would be, well, the lowest since 4.3 in February. And we had a read in May of 6.6%. Finally, 5 to 10 year inflation, 3.9. Both these.
I don't think these numbers are that horrible. I don't think, I mean, it looks like a pretty knee-jerk reaction by the S&P, which I would not be surprised to see this one recover. But there you go. Expectations, 57.2 versus 56 expected. 3.9 versus 3.6 on the 5-year inflation. Then consumer sentiment in general, 58.6 versus 62. Again, this survey, I think we all found out a couple months ago, is not as relevant to the American public because they interview 200 people. But you do have everything going red. Grab goes from 525 to 519. AMD goes down 2%. Hoodie still holding 112, ironically. Like why? Like Hood should be down immediately when the S&P 500 goes down. And Hood goes up, dude. This entire week for Hood has not made sense. Has not made sense at all. CoreWeave goes straight to red. NVIDIA continues to go red. Apple goes red. Palantir bottomed at 173 so far. Now it's at 176. Bitmine was down 9%. Now it's down 6%. D-Wave still down, not down as much as it was 20 minutes ago. It was at 1640. Now it's at 17. And then Meta continuing to hold on to the green. Nubank, though, does dip from 1407 to 1376. Carp might give Palmer lucky or give a Palmer lucky moment with Jason Calacanis. I don't know if it would be that intense because Jason Calacanis like literally went after Palmer lucky for 3 years. So I don't think Carp would do anything that intense, like prepare a speech to go at Jason Calacanis. But it is going to be interesting because, you know, they're all different personalities. And I don't know if Chamath's a fan of Palantir or not. So it's going to be, the only one who probably cares about them is David Sachs because he likes Peter Thiel and he's invested in them. But we're going to see. September, we're going to see him at the Olin Summit. Bitmine right here, still down 7. ServiceNow is up a little bit. Salesforce is up 3. Okay, so I think these inflation reads on the Michigan consumer sentiment is a nothing burger. You got the S&P already recovering from 643.22 to 644. We are 0.09% away from going green on the day. I don't think we're going to see that much pain. Spotify's up because some super investors did add to this one. It was not the highest owned or added stock in Q2, but it was one of, I think, like the top 25 that were added to. So Spotify got hit last earnings. They missed on EPS. Advertising wasn't that good, but overall, kind of a recession-proof company along with Netflix. Like, who's canceling their Netflix or Spotify if we get a recession? I feel like very few people. Very, very few people. And as a result, that's why it seems like those stocks are green. Is it ethical to invest in OnlyFans? That's a good question. That's a good dude. OnlyFans, their revenue per employee is $35 million because they only have a couple hundred employees and they do a lot of revenue. And so, you know, Palantir's revenue per employee is like 900,000. Robinhood is like 1.2 million. OnlyFans, every employee is worth like $30 million bucks. It is one of the most, just incredible high margin businesses that's out there. And I think it says something about the sign of the times, but nonetheless, if you invested early in OnlyFans, you've done well. OpenDoor right here up 10%. UNH is not giving up its 10% either. UNH is not giving up its 10%. So the dip you had today was 297. Now it's right back to 301. It's continued to hold on. AMD trying to get up there as well. Yeah, dude, this inflation read was a nothing burger. This was nothing. I mean, this cannot be something I think the market actually takes that seriously. It would be weird for them to care that much. Where's the 10-year right here? The 10-year is 4.297, up a little bit, but not too bad. I don't think OnlyFans would ever go public. Dude, OnlyFans got banned from Visa and MasterCard at one point. Like, this is a company that's just hard for it to go public, given the nature of the business. I think they're in private equity right now. So, I mean, maybe OnlyFans shows up in people's 401ks because we can now invest in private equity there. But yeah, I don't ever see them going public. Bitmine right here down 6%, and Rigetti also getting hit down 6%. Chris will be on next week, guys. Chris will be on next week. So we'll get his thoughts on UNH and the general markets next week, but he'll be on, I don't know, probably Monday or Tuesday. So we'll have Chris on and we'll get his thoughts on everything going on. SoFi right here getting back to 23. Monday.com, that's up a little bit. Duolingo down 0.5%. Adobe still up 1.4. And Palantir down 1.5. Now there was another investor that bought Palantir in the super investor 13Fs. It was only 2,000 shares though. So you're not seeing any big money from the super investors, although there is institutional money coming in. But yeah, you had 2 people, and this is the most in 4 years. I mean, this thing has been empty for Palantir for 4 years. And to me, that's bullish because that means, all right, some people are saying, all right, we got to have some exposure to Palantir, even if they are buying at higher levels. Is UNH ethical investing? That's a good question, dude. Like, again, that ethical investing question is a big thing for people to think about, because if you have a loved one or you yourself got denied care from UNH, and next thing you find out, you know, the insiders at this company are milking the premiums, and their medical loss ratios are so high because they're not ethically operating the business, not only from a financial perspective that would be good for their patients, but also because legitimately they're just not approving patient care because it's less premiums they have to pay out. Like, is that ethical? I mean, that's a big question. So it's just, you know, whether you think about Palantir and ethics, Google and ethics, UNH and ethics, everyone has to come to their own conclusion. And that girl that I went on a date with, she came to the conclusion that vegan consumption is Beyond Meat even vegan? I don't even know, but like, I guess not eating animals is the most ethical thing to invest in. And that investment itself, just, you know, even if it is quote unquote ethical, has not done the best. Amid what limits Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and the likes eating up Grab's market segment? Where do you see the most conviction? Those guys are not in Southeast Asia. So that's a simple answer to that. Grab has 700 million people in Southeast Asia to go after. Those guys are not there. They tried to go there. Uber tried in 2018. They weren't able to succeed. They ended up selling their business to Grab. By the way, Uber did not sell a single share of Grab either. They still have 535 million shares. So, yeah, it would just be hard for some of the Western companies to come to Southeast Asia and try to get in there. Oh, wow. We had Goolsby on CNBC today. I didn't even see that. Let's see some of these thoughts by Goolsby and see if we can get a better understanding of how he's thinking the overall markets as well. This is one of the Fed presidents, and then we'll keep going from there.
And now PPI, with the inflation kicking up in categories that are not obviously going to be transitory, which is to say the services inflation look to be turning up. So I feel like we still need another one at least to figure out if we're still on the golden path.
Were you looking, as I was this morning, into those import prices to see if they were the exporters were absorbing some of this, and now you don't see it? What is your sense of this number this morning? Usually, I don't know, over 23 years of doing this on TV, I've maybe talked about import prices 1 or 2 times before, but now it's kind of important, right?
Yeah, look, we're out sniffing in all sorts of places that are not normal to have to sniff. The thing about import prices to remember is they don't include the tariffs. In most of those cases, the tariffs will be on top of it. So if the foreign is absorbing, if the foreign exporters to the United States are absorbing the cost, those prices should be going down.
if those prices go up and then you add the tariffs on top of it, that's a little bit the scenario. That's the unease scenario where, the costs are going up, and now we're in the business of trying to figure out, well, how long are those price increases going to last? Let's not overreact to 1 month of import price data, for sure. Let's not overreact to 1 month of CPI or PPI inflation, but it's at least an area of concern.
Austin, when it's come to rates, you've been maybe, what do they say? St. Augustine said, "Oh Lord, let me be chased, but not today." Your attitude has been.
I thought you were going to say brilliant and prudent, Steve. What
brilliant and prudent, yes, sir.
Is this?
Yes, sir, and chase. But the thing is that you've talked about rates will come down over time, but you've been a little bit circumspect about the time over which they should come down. Could you give us your sense of that right now?
Well, I was pretty specific of the time frame in the run up to April 2nd, and that I thought over the year they could come down a lot because we were at pretty much full employment and inflation was headed to 2%, and that's the thing that the FOMC by law is supposed to be looking at. What's happened is we've added a lot of uncertainty and we've added a lot of dirt in the air, which much of it has come from tariffs. And the tariffs, the theory that tariffs are a one-time price increase, that's true for one and done tariffs. And these haven't been one or done. And so we're trying to grapple with this idea of, is this going to be a persistent inflation shock? Is this going to be stagflationary in direction, which is to say it's going to be driving down employment at the same time as driving up prices? That's the worst thing the central bank has to think through because there's not an obvious playbook. You got to sort of weigh off which of these is a bigger miss and how long is the bigger miss going to last. So you can't answer the question, when will we know that we're back or still on the path that we were on before April 2nd, without answering the question, is this going to be the end of the stagflationary shocks, or are we going to keep getting new policy administrations?
So when you say that and you talk about this, it sounds like you need some time at the least. And if you could, when you respond to that, also answer this question: how much does the Fed's stance about policy play a role in figuring out whether or not tariffs become a wider spread problem?
Okay, so he's probably going to say the exact same thing that we had one of the other Fed presidents say yesterday. There was another one who I did see a little bit of what he said. So basically, I mean, they're all parroting the same talking points, which is that we need to mandate, or we need to keep an eye on our mandate, whether it's inflation and the labor market, but none of them have a conclusive answer on what to do about the dual nature of that mandate, because you don't really have that much conclusive data on the labor market, obviously, because we have those job provisions and now we have a new BLS commissioner. And inflation's kind of up in the air. CPI was great, PPI was not. And most people thought CPI would be really bad, which is why I think we got to 640 on the S&P this week, because CPI was really good compared to the expectations, but PPI wasn't. So we're going to have to see. You can see Goolsby there. He can't give you a definitive, justification on if we cut rates or not. But then you have Waller and Bowman that want to cut by maybe even 50 bips. So I don't know. Jackson Hole is the annual meeting for the Fed in Wyoming. That's going to be a big day, August 22nd. We're going to have to really see what Jay Powell ends up saying about the economy. If he's hawkish, it's going to be ugly, I think, for the markets. But I think if there's a 92% probability of a rate cut, he'll probably be dovish enough for 25 bips. And, Goldman Sachs is saying we'll get 3 cuts this year. Like, if we just don't get these cuts, it could get ugly. But I think we will. I think we will, even if it takes some time. VG, that's down 6%. That one had a good week. That one's down today. Not sure why that one's getting hit. Again, for those that are saying, is VG a buy? VG is a literal 10-year investment. Chris and Matt have said this many times. If you're buying this, you're buying the free cash flows of 2035 that you think are going to be massive because of their ability to expand their pipelines. I mean, it's just that simple. So if you're buying it for like a run to 15 again, I mean, maybe that could happen. It was just there a couple of days ago. But realistically, this is one that you just want to buy and hold for the long term. That one is down 6%, maybe because oil prices continue to fall. Today, oil prices, oil's down another 1% today. So that might be hurting VG. And then Google, again, second biggest stock in the entire market, trying to break 206. It did break 206. There you go. 205.88. Seems like the big guys have said Google is going to be the stock that they allocate to, at least in big tech. Chris Hunter on vacation in France, still showing up for my boy Amit. Chris Hunter, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. JS, thanks for the super chat, brother. I tried to listen to me, Kevin, during pre-market yesterday, and I'll just say I'm happy you're back. Much love, man. Congrats on the move. JS, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I think we built a real community, dude. I think we built a real community, and that's why people are excited. Google right here, 206, Meta 794. 794. She is trying to go for 800. She's trying to go for 800. Yeah, I think we built a real community, dude. I think people show up in the morning not only because of like the news and the content and just the coverage of everything, but because it's fun when you have a lot of people you can dissect and cover the markets with. And those communities are rare, you know, and I don't take that for granted. It's really rare to catch a community or to form a community over what's really been the past couple of years off one stock, off Palantir, that has now turned into an investing community. You know, Palantir had to do really well for that to happen, but also you just had to have a lot of consistency in the content to gather that many people to care about the markets altogether at once. So very, very happy we are all here together. Cool as a cucumber says, I show up for the trolling. Also that, I mean, you know, I talk about going on a date with a girl and 1,500 comments all at once saying you're lying, you didn't go on a date with a, you know, that is peak entertainment. Where do you get that from? Where do you get that from? Like when I tweeted that story yesterday, everyone underneath that tweet was like, don't you mean a guy? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I stepped right into that, dude. I can't even argue with the fact that those comments are coming in. We all know it was a dude, of course. Was she hot? Dude, she was hot. I'm just saying. I'm not going to show her, obviously, out of like privacy, but like she was gorgeous, dude. I mean, although it was pretty freaking stupid on the investing take. And like this is why long-term it would have never worked out, bro. Because she's very like she's look, I'm not like super liberal or super conservative, but she is super liberal. Like like she would be out there protesting on whatever cause of the day it's worth protesting on. But she was gorgeous. Just absolutely gorgeous. But it's like, you know, we couldn't have a conversation without me wanting to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what are you saying? So it's like, there's going to be no way to make that happen. She was white and Filipino. She was white and Filipino. She was a mix between white. She was Wasian. That's what they call it, right? Wasian. She was Wasian. She was gorgeous, dude. She was absolutely gorgeous. But also, it's like she was like really aggressive on the politics, and I'm like, all right, I don't care that much about vegan food. Tesla right here, down 1%. ServiceNow down 0.5%. Salesforce, that's up 2.4%. That is green. So there you go. It was not the dentist. It was not. It was not the yo. The hot crazy scale is so real. It is so real, dude. The hot like the hotter they are, sometimes the crazier. It's obviously I'm just being facetious here, even though I can't say that stupid word. That's such a good word, facetious, but I can't say the word, which makes it worse. But like, you know, sometimes that's a thing, bro. Super hot, but in some way it's also just like, all right, some part of the personality can be up there. Amazon, by the way, has fully recovered to where it was before earnings. Amazon was at 230 before earnings. It went down to 207. It's back to 230. It's pretty incredible, dude. And the reason Amazon got a lift yesterday is because of what do you call it? The grocery, their initiatives to enter into the grocery business. They're already there with Whole Foods, but like they're taking it further with more food they can give at checkout and like 30-minute delivery, hour-long deliveries. So that is why I think they got a bit of the boost. Again, there are not a lot of margins in that business, but it should just increase the overall engagement. I think that's why the street got kind of excited about that one. Meta, are we close to 800? Meta, I'll check 800 resistance, but it looks like she wants to get there. Palantir still down on the day. AMD down about 1.3%. Meta 795, $800 resistance on Meta. 35,000 shares. 35,000 shares. Nvidia back to 180. Looks like consumer sentiment was not that big of a deal. Bitmine is down 6% on the day. Bitmine's up 30% for the week. So I don't think people can be too upset about that. Beyond Meat still down 5. Venture Global down 4. Coinbase down 1. And then Oklo, which did get a DOE deal this week, Department of Energy, that one's down 4%. That one's down 4%. Yeah, they're up like 45% in the past 2 weeks, which is pretty incredible. Kroger tanked on the Amazon news, I would imagine. I mean, dude, Amazon's going after they're not going to make any margin off selling you bananas at checkout. Robin, trying to go for 113. But if they can get you to add a banana, maybe they can get you to add more of your groceries. I mean, they essentially want to be your grocer. And not a lot of people buy their groceries on Amazon, but imagine if Amazon starts becoming where you get your groceries from. Like that's a whole new business for them, which again, margins aren't great, but it further entices people to never leave Amazon Prime, which is definitely good for their top line business. Hoodie, 113. We got to 113, got rejected right at 113, but we did get 113 here. UNH, Oscar, UNH still holding its momentum. Is anyone buying UNH now off the Buffett buy? 304 on UNH, high of day. But let me do a poll in the chat. Is anyone buying UNH? Again, I do find it weird that UNH is, down this much with all these super investors piling in over the past days. But it's also like, how can you fade Buffett, Tepper, the Saudi Public Investment Fund? Like, how is this thing not 400 in like a year and a half minimum with those guys putting their dollars behind it and probably continuing to buy the dip in Q2 in Q3, which has, got to 230 a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago. And it got to 240 a couple of weeks ago. I mean, like UNH has been on a steady downturn. Now it's starting to get into an uptrend, but in that downturn where the super investors, like, was Warren Buffett doubling down? Because look, 5 million shares is a lot, but it's not that much. So did he increase the position to like 10, 15 million shares? Is he really making this one a big name for him? We're going to find out in another couple months, but if so, that could be a big deal. Beyond Meat just posted on X that news that Beyond Meat filed for bankruptcy are unequivocally false. We have not filed, nor are we planning to file for bankruptcy. All right, there you go. Ethical investing can continue as Beyond Meat is not going bankrupt, apparently. So people still have a chance to invest ethically. 67% of you say no, you're not buying UNH. All right, so the majority of you not convinced that this is a thing. Again, Bloomberg reported yesterday they were going bankrupt, so it wasn't like the company reporting they're going bankrupt. But if they're coming out and saying we're not going bankrupt, okay. Now, granted, one could argue maybe they need to go bankrupt because this is not, dude, this stock has been a disaster. And they have tried so many times to try to fix this thing. I mean, it's down 96% all time. Like, what are we doing here? It's like at some point either they file for Chapter 11 or they try to quote unquote turn things around. But I don't know. Does anyone even eat Beyond Burgers anyway? Didn't Burger King have a collaboration with them for like a couple of months and then people just thought it was disgusting? Also, the way that Beyond Meat makes their food, the same thing about Tesla, right? So to push back against my argument about Tesla being an ethical investment, Tesla has to do a lot of cobalt mining, and that creates a lot of CO2 emissions to be able to get the batteries to be able to put in their cars. So someone can easily, like, I would have respected if she came back at me with the argument and being like, hey, well, to make a Tesla, although you're not using gas in a traditional ICE vehicle, you're still using gas or CO2 emissions and releasing them to be able to create the car itself because you need the batteries from somewhere. And I'd be like, yeah, that's a true point. You could argue that the environmental effect of Tesla at that point is mute. Now, I would say it's net better long term, but still. So there's so many ways to like be able to figure out how exactly does a company get to the perceived ESG goals that they want. But if the ingredients in Beyond Meat are not necessarily ethically procured, then maybe not would be ethical either. Lyft is up 5%. Again, Renaissance added to these guys. Bridgewater added to these guys. There you go, up almost 6%. So Lyft also getting some momentum here. Tesla still slightly down on the day. Google trying to break over 206. We're not seeing that much movement, almost 1030. You had a little bit of a dip. Now you got some recovery. Again, OPEX today, that'll be big for the entire market. We're going to see a lot of things go back and forth probably towards the end of the day. But overall, so far, not too crazy. I think we also have Dude, next week's going to be crazy with Jacksonville, but we also have a ton more macro data coming out next week. This week was 13F, so that was a big deal. Next week, we're going to continue to see labor market data, which will be very important for the Fed. Now, take a look at this chart right here. The S&P 500's price to book value is at an all-time high, 5.3x. The last time it was anywhere near these levels was March of 2000, 5.1. We have now surpassed the dot-com bubble price to book ratio of the S&P 500. However, 34% of the S&P 500 is technology, and technology has beat fantastically on earnings. So this is not the same S&P 500 from 25 years ago, but we are trading at pretty strong multiples. It's just those multiples might be justified. And again, when companies like an NVIDIA and AMD put up the earnings they're putting, it's just hard to get super bearish just because it's trading at a new price to book. And who knows? I mean, these records are meant to be broken, right? Eventually, when you get to all-time highs, you're meant to see records get broken, values, PEs, ratios change if the market changes. And right now, I think we're living through one of the biggest market changes of our life. ATNF, that is the ETHZilla thing that, what's his name? Peter Thiel is investing in. By the way, Peter Thiel's net worth is now 26 billion, dude. It was like 4 billion a couple years ago. So obviously Palantir stock has helped that, but overall his net worth has gone up a lot. This one's down 15% right here. He did take a 7.5% stake in this. This is another ETH treasury. So you do have more Ethereum excitement from a lot of these investors. MicroStrategy still not cooperating. Still not cooperating here. All right, let's get a little bit more coverage on some of the consumer inflation data, and then we'll keep going from there.
For payroll revisions, and within the Conference Board surveys, the jobs hard to get measures and the outlook measures have been also under pressure. So maybe that is somewhat in sync with a little bit of a soft spot in consumer sentiment from Michigan. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's reflecting behavior too directly, as we just saw with the retail sales, but you know, it's sort of like the relief from not getting max tariffs that lasted May into June maybe has worn off to a degree.
Yeah, that was going to be my.
And here's some coverage on UNH as well.
Soaring in after hours trading and up about 12% this morning. Warren Buffett's firm held about $1.57 billion worth of the beleaguered stock as of the end of Q2. Appaloosa also making a big bet on United Health, adding 2.3 million shares to hold $764 million worth. Now that firm's largest single stock position. Michael Burry's Scion also bought a lot of notional exposure to United Health worth over $100 million. Berkshire Hathaway revealing 3 mystery stocks that had been omitted from the Q1 filing due to special confidential treatment. This quarter, we learned that the firm took new stakes in steelmaker Nucor and homebuilder D.R. Horton and bought a new class of shares in its peer Lennar.
So Buffett's going long the home builders, which means he thinks rate cuts are definitely coming. And the reason Mercado Libre is up is because Burry bought 3,000 shares of Mercado Libre. So you got Burry buying call options on UNH. You got Buffett going long the home builders as his like mystery stocks. UNH was not the mystery stock, by the way. UNH was one of the stocks that he bought, but the mystery stock were the home builders. And Burry joining him in UNH, he reduced his Estee Lauder position by 25%. He also bought Lululemon. We talked about that a couple days ago. Chris Camillo, friend of the channel, he is a big fan of Lulu. That one's up 1% right here. We got Burry buying Lulu, reducing some of his Estee Lauder, buying UNH, and buying Mercado Libre. And then Berkshire buying the home builders and buying UNH. Lennar, that stock, there you go, up 2% based on Buffett buying. Meta's trying. She's really trying for 800. Got to 796. That would be psychologically a big deal for Meta. So it would be very nice to see if we can get there. Is Lulu ethical? It's a good question. They get a lot of their stuff from Bangladesh and Pakistan, and you have a lot of, let's just say, questionable working environments in those parts of the world. But in the West, we pay $150 for a hoodie. Literally, I paid $150 2 months ago for a hoodie in California from Lululemon. And it probably cost them maybe 10, 15 bucks, maybe 20, 30 if you really put, I mean, like they get this for real cheap because the cost of labor in Bangladesh is next to nothing. Is that ethical? I don't know. All right. Like these are hard questions. It's not easy to answer these questions, but if you're in the stock market to just be ethical, it's tough, dude. It's tough because you'll always find some problem with some company. Yeah, Nike as well. Oh, by the way, dude, I was such a capitalist yesterday. I contributed to the economy in such a way yesterday. I bought a Lyft to go to New York. I bought an iPhone when I was in New York. And then when I was in the Lyft on the way to go get dinner with someone who works at the NASDAQ, which is why I'm wearing this today, I realized this is what I was wearing on the way to this dinner, bro. And I just I wear these slides so much. I was like, I am about to go to dinner at a fancy steakhouse in freaking flip-flops. I was like, I should probably go get some sneakers. Now I need new sneakers anyway. I haven't bought new sneakers in like 3 years, to be honest. So then I went to Nike after I got the iPhone, and I was like, I should go buy some sneakers. So yesterday was a very capitalist day for me, bro. And I wish I actually owned Nike and Apple. I would have felt better about spending the money if I owned stock in those guys. Yes, I left the house in those, bro, because I left the house to go to the apartment, and I didn't need to wear sneakers to move the furniture in. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna wear these slippers. I forgot to take the sneakers with me to the apartment, and then I'm in the lift, and I just look down at my feet. I'm like, I can't go into a steakhouse with slippers on. I can't do this, bro. That's how much I don't care about sneakers, bro. I've never been a sneakerhead. Never been a sneakerhead. So yeah, I got some Air Force Ones yesterday, low tops, and looked a bit more presentable for dinner. Uber's up. Uber is green. Yes, Uber 93. Oh wow, Uber trying to break out to 52 guys. I think last time I got there was 97 a couple weeks ago. 93 is what we're seeing on Uber. Here in Vietnam, they pay Nike, Starbucks, and McDonald's workers $1 per hour. Yeah, I mean, obviously $1 is better in Vietnam than it is in the United States based on the cost of living. But, you know, if you buy anything from those companies and you know that they're being subsidized by these types of wages, which no one in the United States would accept, right? $1 per hour. Brings up a lot of questions around ethics. And there are good questions to ask, by the way. There's not questions you should hide away from, but there's also questions that if you tried to answer them and tried to make an investment decision off them, it would be very tough to be able to invest. SoFi right here, 2307, Adobe 352, Cisco, they had a good earnings, but that one's down. IBKR is also down, and then Hoodie just been going back and forth between 110 and 113 all day. Out of the Hood Summit in September, we're likely going to see the active trader product to get better, so Legend get better. Also, I mean, I'm excited for the Hood Summit, but I'm more excited. By the way, Tanner said Tanner said on a stream yesterday he'll be there. So Tanner, Roy, and I will be there in Vegas, so it'll be fun, and we'll get to cover the event. But I'm more excited for banking. I mean, guys, they got $6.4 billion of deposits in July, and no one even has direct deposits set up in Robinhood. I think you can set up like some type of reoccurring deposit, but like when you get paid from your employer, that goes to a separate bank account, and then you have to manually go into Robinhood and transfer that money. And they got people to do that to the tune of $6 billion. Imagine what happens when they just set it up with direct deposit. The inflows of money, I think, are going to be dramatic, and the stability of that money will be much easier for Robinhood to project. And when you have more money inside of the app, you can do more investing. You can apply for more products like the credit card. I mean, there's just so many ways. You can get a loan with Sage, with their new partnership for mortgages, personal loans they might start coming out with. I mean, there's just so many things I think Hood's going to be able to do. And that in S&P, I think, takes this thing to 120. Yeah, they do have some form of direct deposit you can do with the spending account, but no one does it. You know, barely anyone uses their cash card. Like I have a Robinhood cash card, but I don't use it, and most people that I know do not have direct deposit set up because it's just like it's not intuitive. Like you need a banking platform and a blank checking and savings account to make it intuitive. So because the money doesn't go into the brokerage, the money will go into a banking app, and then you can transfer it into the brokerage. But you need a banking app, and Robinhood doesn't have one. But in September they will. And I think that's going to be exciting. Matt says, honestly, with 4% APR, I might just do direct deposit to Robinhood. I then have money to move to my checking to pay bills. Yeah, and you know, Matt, money's clearing like $100,000 a month, so it would be nice to get that $100,000 coming into Robinhood versus like JP Morgan. And you know, That's good for Robinhood's overall assets under custody, which, by the way, now is $300 billion. So I don't know, dude. I'm not selling a single share of Robinhood. Not a single freaking share, dude. Like, I think this thing is going way higher towards the end of the year. I like 120 is what I'm thinking. Could I see it above that? Yes, especially with S&P. And then if crypto keeps going the way it's going, Q3 is going to crush. So I don't know what's going to happen in 2026. I don't know what the market dynamics are going to be like, but by the end of the year, I think we're going higher. I'm joking about 100K a month. I don't know if he clears 100K a month, but I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Money clears 100K a month. His name is Matt Money, bro. His name is Matt Money. Would they allow margin for the overdraft? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think they're going to have overdraft fees because as a neobank, overdraft fees are just like a big no-no. I know SoFi doesn't do that, which is also really good. But I think they're going to have some creative ways to get people to stay in the ecosystem, which is a good thing. Schwab, by the way, they put out their monthly metrics yesterday as well. Dude, Schwab crushed it. Schwab absolutely crushed it. We think Robinhood's doing well from a growth rate perspective, which they are. They're doing better than everyone based on the level of rate of growth. But Schwab, I mean, take a look at this, dude. Schwab added 377,000 accounts last month. Total client assets, 10.9 trillion. I mean, 46 billion assets were brought in the month of July. Robinhood had 6 billion. Like this is such a big market for Robinhood to go after. Schwab is a legacy company. They're not growing as fast as Robinhood. They're not, doing all the different marketing things that Robinhood is doing to get people to know about their name. Obviously, they're a much bigger brand and more people know about Schwab. But the fact that Schwab can add double the amount of accounts that Robinhood's adding is it just means there's such a massive opportunity for them to be able to take market share. And they don't have to put Schwab out of business. They just have to take a little bit more market share for Robinhood to be an incredibly attractive proposition long-term as well. So I think the overall brokerage space is doing stronger. Okay, so we have SoFi that's down a little bit, Hood that's down, or Hood that's up a little bit. Let me see if we have any other headlines coming through. Trump, we're not going to know about the Trump and Putin meeting until probably end of day. I mean, we might hear a little bit about it during the meeting, but likely not. By the way, JP Morgan came out with a statement today. They said the BLS payroll revisions, despite the recent 258,000 downward change for May and June, haven't trended higher over time and have generally declined since the 1990s. Revisions often come in streaks of gains or losses, but aren't tied to the business cycle. So they're saying, hey, the revisions are kind of a nothing burger, and it happens here and there, but it shouldn't be something that investors are afraid of as like lacking legitimacy of all the data. You had some people saying they didn't believe in the PPI yesterday because now the BLS is lacking legitimacy, which is a very scary thing because investors need to, use that data to be able to make decisions. So I think the new head of the BLS will give us some more coverage in the future, or like methodology for how they're going to cover collecting data. And that should give us a better understanding of what's going to be happening from there. Let's get back to that Berkshire news and get a little bit more coverage on that as well.
Those three stocks also higher today, although off of their highs, especially from pre-market trading. Viking Global also bumping up its exposure to those two home builders, doubling its stake in D.R. Horton and boosting Lennar as well. However, Viking sold out of $1 billion stake in United Health. So not quite consensus there. Berkshire.
It really isn't consensus. You have some people that are selling and then other people like Buffett that's buying. So this 10% pop is good, but I wonder, does it really get people to be like, all right, I'm going to just be buying with the big names? Or is it exit liquidity for people that want to get out of it and that see the earnings per share just not living up to the guidance, which is the reason why the stock got to the 230s last week.
Also paring back Apple by 6.7%, but still held about $58 billion worth of Apple. And just a reminder, all of these positions are as of the end of June, and they may have changed in the 6 weeks since that time. But Mike, curious what you make of at least kind of what it says about where Berkshire's head is at as it pertains to the macro environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in the sense that Berkshire has done very little in terms of shuffling around the portfolio for a while, and this does show that there's still the reflex to be opportunistic about an industry leader with presumably a pretty good and defensible competitive position, which was a massively outperforming stock for many years until this rough patch when it gets dislocated. And I think what's also interesting is the multiple different name hedge fund buyers that are converging on it. So it did get washed out super cheap. You couldn't get worse news flow, obviously, than surrounded UNH recently. Now, the question is from here, given the downside adjustment in earnings expectations, nobody's expecting, I don't think, a quick score here. It's much more about long-term repair and the idea that the underwriting cycle is going to swing back in favor of UNH. They're going to be a little more rational about things. The Medicare Advantage problems maybe get ironed out. A lot has to go right. But, the stock fell from like 375 in May. It's only 3 months ago. It just absolutely crashed in the latest results. So it did show you that if things get far enough away from perceptions of longer term fair value, they connect. Now,
we got a clip of Trump audio speaking on Air Force One just now.
Not here to negotiate for Ukraine. I'm here to get them at a table. And I think you have two sides. Look, Vladimir Putin wanted to take all of Ukraine. If I wasn't president, he would right now be taking all of Ukraine. But he's not going to do it. The war's got to stop and the killing's got to stop. I think they're trying to negotiate.
Oh, we actually have the video of Trump. We have the video of Trump. There he is. He's on Air Force One right here. Before I check that UNH real quick, just taking a look. UNH still up 303.70. That is green. And Nebius trying to get to 70 as well. Here's Trump on Air Force One.
Got hit by a missile. But 7,000, over 7,000 soldiers. It's crazy.
Could you describe a little bit, Mr. President, because I know you've had a lot of phone calls with President Putin. What's the difference in a face-to-face, in-person meeting?
Look, he's a smart guy, been doing it for a long time, but so have I. Been doing it for a long time. And here we are with President. That was much more difficult than what I'm doing today, believe me. So we get along. There's a good respect level on both sides. And I think, something's going to come of it. I noticed he's bringing a lot of business people from Russia. And that's good. I like that because they want to do business, but they're not doing business until we get the war settled.
You can talk about
business. We have the hottest country on earth. We have the hottest economy on earth. We have the hottest country. We just set a new stock market record again. We have hundreds of billions of dollars flowing in from tariffs. We're the hottest. We were a dead country, dead like doornails, a dead country. 1 year ago, we were dead as a doornail, and now we have the hottest country. And he wants a piece of that because his country is not hot economically. In fact, it's the opposite. And China's not doing well economically, but we're all, look, I want everybody to do well. The war's got to stop and the killing's got to stop.
Mr. President, what do you stop? Thank you for coming back to take questions. We saw that Russia continued its violence into Ukraine last night, launching even more drones. What did you make of that?
I think they're trying to negotiate. He's trying to set a stage. I mean, in his mind, that helps him make a better deal. It actually hurts him. But in his mind, that helps him make a better deal if they can continue the killing. Maybe it's a part of the world. Maybe it's just his fabric, his genes, his genetics. But he thinks that makes him, gives him strength in negotiating. I think it hurts him, but I'll be talking to him about it later.
It's on the table for discussions today, Mr. President. Are the territorial swaps on the table? Will you be discussing that?
They'll be discussed, but I've got to let Ukraine make that decision. And I think they'll make a proper decision. But I'm not here to negotiate for Ukraine. I'm here to get them at a table. And I think you have two sides. Look, Vladimir Putin wanted to take all of Ukraine. If I wasn't president, he would right now be taking all of Ukraine. But he's not going to do it.
Mr. President, what
I don't know, guys. What do we think? Do we think he's going to be able to meaningfully get a deal? I just think it's going to be, if he does, it is going to be pretty damn hard. But I don't know. And I don't know if we're going to get any of that data today. It just feels like it's going to be tough, dude. There's going to have to be some side giving a real concession. And I don't know what side that is. Will says, Mick, can you say hi to my daughter, Maya? She listens to you when dropping her off at school. She's a junior in high school. Maya, thank you for listening to the streams with your dad. And hope you are getting interested in investing as a junior in high school. I wish I got interested as a junior in high school. because by the time you're in college and you graduated college, you will have a lot more knowledge than the average investor. So thank you for listening to the streams, and thank you to your pops being in the streams every day as well. I think for Putin and Trump to come to a meaningful conclusion, Zelensky will have to give up something. And I think Zelensky only gives up something if he has like the most reassurance that what he's giving up is the least possible thing he can give up. And that's not the deal that Putin's been asking for the past 7 months, which is he wants 30% of the eastern part of the region. And like, it's just hard to imagine Zelensky agreeing to that. So that's why this is scary, because it's like scary in the sense of, hey, is this just going to keep going on forever? Like at some point, there's going to need to be a conclusion. I think Trump is like, all right, now everyone agrees. We're gonna find some conclusion to this, but it's hard. And he can keep saying, oh, if I was president, this would have never. He can keep saying that, but the reality is now he's president, and something's got to change. And it just doesn't feel like it's going to easily happen. But then again, can the war keep continuing, right? Like, I mean, the one thing Trump has a point on is like people are dying, thousands of people every week. So it's like I'm happy I don't have to be in that position to figure out this deal. I think a lot of people would not be able to deal with that pressure. So I commend Trump on trying to get this done, but I just don't know if we're going to easily get something out of the way. Yeah, he definitely wants, dude, if he figures this out, oh, he is a lock-in for the Nobel Peace Prize. A lock-in. Absolute lock. If he figures this out, Lemonade, by the way, down about 2%, he is absolutely getting that Nobel Peace Prize. He's already been nominated from like so many different world leaders about getting it based on conflicts that he's been able to theoretically create a peace treaty with. Last week we saw with Armenia. But I don't know. I don't know if he gets this one done. EJ, thanks for the $5 super chat. If you think Hood can 10x in 10 years, do you think Grab can more than 10x in the same time to justify adding significantly to Grab here instead of Hood? So a 10x on Hood would be $1 trillion. A 10x on Grab would be 200 billion. Look, if I had to say which one do I think is more likely to happen, I would say Hood, just because their execution's at a different level. I think 10 years is up there in terms of the time frame. Like, I think we're being a little too aggressive on the 10x in 10 years. Now, granted, if Hood keeps growing at freaking 40% every year, which they're not, but let's say they do, then I don't know, maybe $1 trillion is possible in 10 years. But no, in terms of the allocation between Hood and Grab, it's up to your conviction, right? I have a Hood position, it's built out, so I'm not worried about adding to it. So like when these questions come down to, hey, if I have 100% of my portfolio in Hood, do I want it to be 70-30, 30% in something else? Or if Hood's 20% of my portfolio, do I want to make it 17 and then that 3% I'll allocate to Grab? And it depends on where you think the outlook is. With Grab, again, I just think that with $8 billion in cash, they're relatively de-risked. And now that the big guys are adding every quarter, to me, it's kind of obvious that they expect this thing to break out. Grab just needs to put up the earnings to do that. And based on my DD, I think they will. But time is going to tell to see if they can figure it out. Grab right there, 519. That is slightly green. Oscar as well, trying to get some momentum. 1579. That's up 7.8%. BMNR, ugly day, losing a lot of its momentum this week on a Friday, down 10%. We will see at 4 p.m. if Tom Lee diluted. Google at 206. Netflix at 1236. But if he didn't dilute, then this is more so algos probably breaking it down. Hims, that one getting hit as well. Hims is recovering. It was down 3. Now it's barely down. He's got to be diluting. I mean, look, they have 20 billion worth of shares to dump whenever they want. But again, the thing is, like, you just can't care if they do, right? Like, that's the whole point of it is that's the structure of the treasury company. That's what SBET did last week, or not last week, on Monday with the $200 million offering. SBET down 12%. What is SBET's NAV? Can someone tell me? The market cap's 3.3 billion. How much Ethereum? No, they have 780,000. Let's just do the math. 780,000 times 4,500. Dude, are they trading below NAV right now? I think they're trading below NAV. I think they're trading below NAV. I mean, is that an opportunity? Why are they down 12% today? They have 7. Oh, wait. No. They have 780,000 Ethereum. You don't multiply by their average. You multiply it by the price of Ethereum. That's how you get the net asset value, right? It's just price of the asset times the number. They have exactly 728,000. Hold on. 728,804. I did 780 times 4,500. Oh, they're trading almost 1-to-1, 3.2. Market cap is 3.2. Yeah, they're trading 1-to-1. I gave them an extra 60,000 Ethereum in my previous calculation. So, okay, so they're 1-to-1. They're not below NAV, but I don't know. This one looks more attractive than BM&R here. But BM&R has the Tom Lee premium. And the Tom Lee premium is hard to get if you don't have Tom Lee on your board. They have earnings today as well. My Misty average is 21. Dude, I'm kind of annoyed at Misty. Like, I like it for the income, but I already said this last week. I was thinking of trimming it because I just like, I'd rather allocate that money. It's only 500 shares, but I'd rather allocate it somewhere else. But now MSTR is being a little moody, bro. What's going on here? Why is this thing down for the week when Bitcoin's at all-time high? That's just weird. And Saylor did say on the earnings he was going to strategically dilute only when the market cap got to certain levels. And I don't think any of the levels he talked about were triggered this week. But maybe the market just said, we're going a different... Dude, honestly, as simple as it is, maybe the market took some of their MSTR money and they put it into Tom Lee. And they were like, this is the new MSTR. And it's more volatile. So, well, look, Misty is not trash. Again, the yield max funds, I disagree with the people that say the yield max funds are trash. It's about what you're using it for. So I can't be mad at Misty for going down because MicroStrategy is down. Misty is a derivative of MicroStrategy. And the only reason Misty is down is because the volatility on MicroStrategy is down, or to the downside, which is why the option premiums aren't that good. But if you were selling covered calls on MicroStrategy itself, it would be the same situation. You know, there's no real difference between the yield max fund or doing it yourself. I'm more so annoyed that MicroStrategy itself is not cooperating with Bitcoin this week. It has nothing to do with like the yield max structure of the ETFs. And I don't know why. And I based on what I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people are confused why MSTR has been kind of just junk this whole week. Yield max is not a scam. I don't agree with that. Most people that say that haven't actually looked into yield max. Like yield max is, yeah, exactly. It's an income generator versus, it's like, is Coca-Cola a scam for people that buy into, or is Verizon a scam for buying Verizon for the 6% dividend? No, because a lot of people in retirement, they just want to make sure Verizon stays stable. If it goes down 4 or 5%, they're okay. If it goes up 4 or 5%, they're happy, but they don't want it to go down 30% and they don't need it to go up 30%. They're happy to collect their 6% dividend. That is the yield max funds. It's just doing it on very high beta stocks. So you have to deal with the volatility. And it's using covered calls to generate dividend premium versus traditional dividends from a stock. But, you know, in certain market conditions, it'll be good. Certain market conditions, it won't be the best. So I really disagree that it's a scam. That's not the point of it. For appreciation, the point of it is for income. The Roundhill Neos are better. Yeah, Steve's does like those a lot better as well. And some of those more have the weekly ones, which is not too bad. The dip is a month early. We will likely see a recovery and boom end of August, start of September, and we will see a bear market. I still think there's a shot we could avoid the crypto bear market in 2026, just given how much the institutional investors. Let's check the flows yesterday. How much were the flows for Bitcoin? Yesterday, flows for Bitcoin were 230 million. Okay. Overall in the ETFs. For Ethereum had some monster days this week, including its first $1 billion day. Wow. Yesterday, Ethereum had 639 million. And the day before that, 729 million. So still, you got massive inflows. The day before that, 500 million. And the day before that, $1 billion. So you got like 2.5 billion of ETFs or of inflows coming into Ethereum. Steve did not look into grab yet. I don't think Steve's going to look into grab, bro. I don't think Steve literally called into the market close the moment we were finding out Howard Marks doubled down on grab. And he was trolling me saying, oh, I think you were right about this. I'm like, all right, so you're going to do some DD? He's like, nope. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to be on this one without you, Steve. I guess so. I don't know, dude. He might look into it, but you know, Steve, as much as I love Steve, he's very ideological. You know, Steve, he's more of a mature investor. He has his own thought. He will change his mind, but like he doesn't like non-US companies. It is what it is. He loves XRP for some reason, but he's not a fan. Dude, the amount of people on Twitter that are like, oh, Grab's a Chinese company. I'm like, okay, so there's a decent amount of misinformation around this, which is good. Because same thing with Robinhood, dude. Like I was talking about it with the guy from NASDAQ yesterday. A lot of retail just didn't understand Robinhood. Because we were talking about GameStop and what happened, and a lot of it had to do with the clearinghouses, and it wasn't just Robinhood, it was Schwab, Fidelity. It's just Robinhood had the majority of retail traders, so they took the fall for it. But you have pockets of retail that are really smart, and then you have other pockets of retail that are like, oh, Grab's Chinese. I hate Chinese companies. It's like, dude, they're not even from, like, what do you, they're not from China. Like this. So when you have that level of misinformation around it, then that's real dumb money. Because it's like, oh, so Howard Marks, legendary investor, just bought another 1.3 million shares, but you're staying away from it because you think it's a Chinese company. You could have, you could stay away from it for whatever reason, but because it's China and it's not even from China, like that's where you actually do have dumb money compared to smart money. By the way, here's a clip of Howard Marks talking about his philosophy on position sizing, and I think this will be good for a lot of people that are thinking of how to enter or exit into a position.
Because that down wave is coming.
Well, if I may interpose my view, the great challenge after you've done something unusual isn't figuring out when to get off it. It's figuring out how long you can stay on before it works. Because if you do something and it doesn't work for 6 months or for a year or for 2 years or for 3 months, might you be wrong?
AMD, Grab, Palantir, Hood, Rocket Lab. If something's you're in it and it's not working for a while, could you be wrong? That's why investing's hard. Because what if you're an idiot? What if you're actually wrong and it doesn't work out? How long is the opportunity cost of holding back SoFi for 3 years, right? But then what if you're right? It just needed more time. This is the balance when it comes to really being able to analyze a company.
And commercially, can you endure, etc. So this is the first challenge. Not figuring out when to get off of a winner. That's a minor problem. Figuring out how long to stay with something that isn't working. That's a big problem. And you know, I use all these sayings in the memos in my books and that I've learned from other people, and I've learned so much. The first of the great sayings that I ever learned in the early 70s was that being too far ahead of your time is indistinguishable from being wrong. So remember what I said. To be a unusually successful investor, you have to see something other people don't see, or you have to see something differently from the way the masses see it. So you see something, you think this is better than most people think, you invest in it, but that doesn't mean they're going to change their minds the next day and say, you know, Howard, you were right, and bid it up. And that process can take a long time. How do you last? And so that's the first question. And of course, the answer is you need a strong stomach, good constitution, not too much emotion, and the resolve to stay with it. But, you know, if you stay with it for 20 years and it doesn't work, then you're an idiot and you're out of business. So there has to be some happy medium there.
I think it's what he's saying is so true. And it's not just Grab, it's any stock that you're in that is not cooperating with your thesis. That, I mean, literally we all went through that with Palantir, right? Now, granted, Palantir has really cooperated over the past year, but for the first 2 years, you had to ask yourself, were you right or was the market right? And I think it's so important for everyone to go through that experience, because it's like, he's right. That's when you become a real investor, when you have a thesis that other people disagree with, primarily based on not understanding the company or based on price action. And you yourself are on the island alone saying, hey, I'm right and the market's wrong. And then it ends up working out. I mean, that's when you really learn how to have conviction and what it means to hold a name. But you could also be wrong. You could also be dead wrong. And then you're on that island for 20 years and the stock hasn't moved, right? And like no one's bidding it up because there's no value. Like, this is why it's exciting to invest, but it's also gut-wrenching at the same time. And given we've had a bull market over the past couple of years, most people have been more right than wrong. I mean, you've had to be pretty wrong to not make any money over the past 3 years. Like, you've had to be really bad. And even if you were really bad, you've still probably made money, at least benchmark to the S&P 500. But if you're going to go out there and take a risk, then these are the risks that are associated with it. He's talking about Duolingo. Yeah, he could be talking about Duolingo. I mean, that one could be a big contrarian bet as well. Investing is an acquired exhaustion, 100%. 100%. But this is why we're so obsessed with it, right? This is why I think, people enjoy the show every morning. It's like all of us are so obsessed with finding that alpha because we're so deep into trying to change our own lives. Because one good stock, your life has changed. I mean, it's just, we've all seen that. Many of us with Palantir, people with Hood, people with SoFi, people with Rocket Lab, like one name, obviously the OGs with Tesla. You find that one thing, it changes your life. But then if you want to really change your life again, you're like, all right, I got to find the next name. I got to find the next name after that. And so it's a constant grind, but that's what makes it exciting. Coinbase right here down 1.85. The Q's down 0.5%. So we are getting some red on the day, folks. Relatively inconsequential red, but it is red. S&P low of the day, 643.50 right here. MSTR just being horrible, down 3%. And then Bitmine down 10%. Cindy says, I was so close to selling all my SoFi before it took off. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not the most bullish SoFi. I'm getting more bullish, but the reason I had those options on SoFi, because even I was like, look, I don't want to have a massive position, but there is something here. And I should have had more options because the bet was super asymmetric at $7. And I had a good amount for my risk tolerance, but I should have had more given how asymmetric it was. But for the people that were doubling down at 7, which I was not, but for the people that were, I mean, it took a couple of years, but it took off. Absolutely took off. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time of waiting out. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out real quick to someone who sent me something on Venmo, but because I have a new phone, I can't. Let me check my old phone. One of you guys, and the old phone's dead. Of course. One of you guys sent me a $50 Uber Eats gift card on Venmo yesterday. And I will try to pull up my Venmo and log in. But one of you guys gave it, and the caption was congrats on the move-in. So very, very appreciative of that. Thank you for the person who sent that. And yeah, it meant a lot, dude. It's like just a lot of love on this move, and hopefully the content that we get out of the apartment is going to be fun for everybody. Dude, what's my Venmo login? This is the problem with these logins, bro. I made my Venmo years ago. How do I log into this? Okay, I have to go through all this two-factor stuff, but I'll log into it and I'll see. My average cost on grab is 530. 530. My options are 540. Cost is on the shares is 530, but the options are 450. Would you buy leap calls on grab? Yes, I have a bunch of them for Jan 2027. But if I were buying them today, it would be like December 2027, not Jan 2027. Just giving yourself more time. Hoodie right here, 112. Bitmine down 8. Verizon up 1%. Bitcoin 117. The password is not Grinder 2022. That is not. that is not the password. That is not it. Oh, they sent me a link. Okay, cool. I could reset it right here. Your Venmo account login is the same as Grinder. Oh my gosh. This is why I like Face ID, bro. Face ID is just one of the best things Apple's created. Because just immediately gets you. Remember Touch ID, dude? Remember Touch ID? I remember Touch ID. Touch ID, when that came out, that was a game changer. So then they got rid of that button like 10 years ago. Can Hood go to 50 by Jan 2026? I think it would be a little tough to get to, 150. I think that would be tough. I think it's possible, but I think that would be tough. I think 130-ish is kind of like my max price target. 120, I think, is very possible with S&P. Now, if they put up a monster Q3, could it get like a real multiple at 150? Yeah, but I wouldn't count on that easily happening. Face ID is horrible. It makes you not remember. That's also true. Makes you not remember. Okay, I got the sign in on Venmo. Now I need to find where the gift card is. I don't know where this is, but it's somewhere in here. There's still Touch ID on the Mac. Yes, I use Touch ID on my Mac for a lot of random stuff. Dude, where's the gift card? Why is this app so complicated? It should just be in notifications. You click on notifications, you should see. Okay, this is why we have to short PayPal, dude. What is this, dude? What is this? Where is PayPal? PayPal 69.38. Hims right here, down a little bit. MicroStrategy down 3%. SBET, I don't know, dude. That looks like it's about to go below NAV. That is officially, below NAV. 14% on the day. I guess the street's not excited about their earnings. That one is red. 15% though. That's a bit aggressive. Yes, S&P on Hood. I think that will also. Dude, that should take us to 120 easily. I mean, dude, imagine all these funds having to buy this thing at freaking 110. That's a lot of money coming in. So I think that could be very exciting. UNH, by the way, still holding 12. UNH is not giving it up. You would think there would be some people taking profits. Nope. UNH is holding on. Rocket Lab up 1.3, Trade Desk up 3, and then OpenDoor up 12 on news that the CEO is leaving. The Palantir shorts did launch yesterday on the merch store. If you got an order, they sold out within like 3 minutes, dude. So if you did get a short, then congrats. But they did sell out pretty quick, dude. So Andrew left again. He's shorting Palantir from Citron Research. I mean, so far he's up. He started shorting at 185. The stock's at 177. Now you need a really big move to the downside for a short to be actually successful. But you do have a little bit of red on Palantir. I think for him, the short to really work, you need Palantir at like 140-ish, 145. And realistically, and you know, he said it should be at $40 right now. So, I mean, if he's shorting for that type of a move, then he's going to be in this for a minute, in my opinion, because I don't know if we easily get there. But I think at 145, you would start to see like some real profits on that short. The question is, do we even get there? Which, I don't know. It's not easy, I think, to get there. By the time I remembered, it was already sold out. Yeah, dude, they launched at 9:30. It was sold out like 9:35. It was pretty wild. Covered calls are printing. That is correct. Covered calls are printing across the board today. I mean, at least on some of these high beta stocks. AMD right here, 2.18% down. CoreWeave, 1.22. NVIDIA, 1.56. And then Apple holding 230. Let's see what else we got here. See some of the other news. Russian media says Putin has laid flowers at a memorial commemorating U.S.-Soviet World War II cooperation. Okay, so I guess Putin trying to have a very formal meeting with Trump and try to be amicable on both sides. Again, it's just going to be hard to imagine they really get a deal done, bro. This one's going to be a hard one. I don't know. I do not know how easy they can do it. Sunron is up about 10%. That's green. The options market yesterday, OpenDoor was in the top 10 or top 5 stocks that were traded yesterday in the derivatives market. Now today, the current stocks that are top 5 are NVIDIA, Tesla, Intel, UNH, and OpenDoor. NVIDIA's at 1 million contracts, Tesla's at 831,000, Intel 745, UNH 613, OpenDoor 418, AMD is at 413, and then Palantir is 385. Hood's at 184,000. Bitmine's at 91,000. So these are your top 20 names traded in the options market right now. Remember Goldman Sachs 2 days ago also told people to buy call options on AMD and Palantir? Like, I can't believe they put out their note to their clients, but they did. And that to me is just kind of wild that they did that. But yeah, I mean, if you did today, you're down. But maybe long term, they think it does work out. Hoodie 112, Palantir 177.62. Trump is meeting with him at 3 p.m. today. So by 4 p.m. ish, I mean, maybe we get some updates, but 3 p.m. We'll see. Let's finish up with Trump. Here's another 2 minutes on Air Force One.
Just one thing. What about the possibility of the United States providing security guarantees to Ukraine?
Maybe, along with Europe and other countries. Not in the form of NATO, because that's not going to, there are certain things that aren't going to happen. But along with Europe, there's a possibility of that.
Mr. President, the number of business people that President Putin is bringing along, is that something that you want to discuss with President Putin at this meeting?
If we make progress, I would discuss it, because that's one of the things that they would like. They'd like to get a piece of what I built in terms of the economy. Just so you know, we were a dead country with our economy. He wouldn't be interested. He wouldn't have been interested a year ago with the Biden economy. But he is interested in the Trump economy, because wait till you see when those factories start opening up. We have hundreds of factories all over the country, and that includes auto factories, AI factories, and every other. They're all coming in because they want to beat the tariffs. Because if they open here, they don't have to pay tariffs. If they don't open here, they have to pay, in some cases, 200%, 300%. I haven't even set some of the tariffs yet. I'll be setting tariffs next week and the week after on steel and on, I would say, chips.
So you do have Trump saying, all right, we're going to get steel tariffs and chip tariffs next week as well. Maybe that's also why NVIDIA had a 2% drawdown when the market opened. I think, the big semiconductor names will be exempt from some of them, or they'll at least have exemptions, but that could be a little bit of a headwind for some of the other semi names.
Chips and semiconductors we'll be setting sometime next week, week after.
What are you looking at? What rate?
We're going to have a rate that is going to be lower at the beginning. Then that gives them a chance to come in and build, and very high after a certain period of time. And if they don't build here, they have to pay a very high tariff, which doesn't work, so they'll come and build.
Mr. President.
Yeah, this was before the market opened. That could have been the reason we saw some of the pain in the semis. SMH on the day down 2%. There you go. I mean, again, with Trump, you never know, because he'll say, all right, chip tariffs. And then if you invest $100 billion, no more chip tariffs. So I don't think he fully has a thought out plan on what the semiconductor tariffs will look like. But that does coincide with taking a stake in Intel, because Intel is making their chips in the US. And that's what Trump is trying to endorse, So the question is just how much those tariffs end up being. Bitcoin below 117, folks. All right, it just touched below 117, recovered to now 117.4. I touched it for a second. But we were at 124.5 2 days ago. That's nasty. That is nasty. You think you're breaking out maybe into the 130s, or at least into the high 120s, and then boom, the PPI comes out, and Ethereum and Bitcoin both get hit on the idea of more inflation. But again, who in their right mind sells NVIDIA? No one sells NVIDIA because of PPI or any random chip tariff that Trump is thinking about. This is why I think yesterday's market action was so incredible for me to see. Even if I wasn't live, I was looking at the market and I was like, wow, dude, 0.15% down on the worst PPI since 2022. Now that can't be a trend. But even if it is a trend, are you selling NVIDIA? No, you're just NVIDIA's earnings are not going to be affected by PPI. So algos could get mad about that. And I hope it's not a trend where we have elevated producer prices, but it's one of those things where the market was able to easily shrug it off. Now, speaking of Russia and Ukraine, this is a clip I saw on Lex Friedman's podcast yesterday. And this thing got me a little, I don't want to say scared, but a little just it reminded me what's actually happening in regards to China and Taiwan. So this is Ku Jin. She's a Chinese economist. And listen to what she had to say yesterday about Taiwan.
I think that I don't have a lot of views around this, but I just say this. I think there's more political wisdom of the Chinese government side than we assume outside of China. And that strategic ambiguity, but also strategic patience, especially given China's economic situation currently, means that more likely or not, I think that if China does really well economically and Taiwan is not doing as well economically as we've seen, that over time, this is still the best strategy from China's point of view to resolve these differences. I think any military use and action would be actually quite detrimental to China.
If you go deeper in the podcast, I'll link it right here. She basically said, hey, China's not stupid. They know their economy is not good right now, so they would not think of invading Taiwan. But make no mistake about it, the government is practicing what she calls strategic patience to eventually get to what China calls reunification with Taiwan. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, dude, what? Like, I don't know if it's going to happen in 10 years, in 15 years. If you ask the Taiwanese people, they think it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. But if China does end up going forward with this, when their economy is way better than what it is today, which maybe takes a couple decades, maybe it takes a couple years, who knows? I don't know how the world reacts to that. I don't know how the world reacts to that. Obviously, TSMC is at the center of everything, and China knows they can't invade right now because they rely on TSMC as well, because NVIDIA relies on TSMC, and China is barely getting the NVIDIA chips. So if they were to invade, there's no chance that they have any ability or like meaningful probability at being at the head of the AI wars. You need the chips. So from a national security perspective and from an AI dominance perspective, they're likely, at least that was the point the economist was making, not going to invade. But their intentions are to reunify, just like Putin has with Ukraine. So it's I don't know, man. It is going to be a dicey geopolitical time. And this is why I understand why Trump is thinking of taking a stake inside of Intel. On one hand, it's of course massive government intervention, but on the other hand, it's like, dude, if we don't build our chips here and China does invade, I mean, what happens then? Like, if we don't have any meaningful capacity to build our chips in America, like, we're more than just regular screwed. We are completely screwed. Especially if at the same time China's been developing their own abilities to build chips in China, which is what they're working on right now. And Huawei has not been the best at it, but they're trying. S&P 500 very close to recovering on the day, about 0.14% away from going green. So it is going to be a dicey decade to see what this turns out to be geopolitically. But China's economy right now is probably the number one reason why they can't invade, because they do not have the money to meaningfully go into war. Also, they had some economic reports that came out this morning, and it was not good. Let me see if I can pull it up. Youth unemployment obviously has been very bad in China, but there's a couple other things that came out this morning. Yeah, look at this. Retail sales were 3.7% year over year. The estimates were 4.6%. Unemployment is now 5.2%, and fixed asset investment, China's trying to get a lot more money to come into their country, 1.6% in the month of July. The estimates were 2.7%. So across the board, you are not seeing the most exciting growth numbers. And AI hasn't really been a tailwind for them yet because they don't have any of the big AI companies. America has all of them. So it's like, you can't just invade Taiwan and get into a war when you don't have the economy to back you up to get there. Yeah, and then the birth rate is horrible in China because the one-child policy. I mean, there's a lot of different macro and economic factors for why trying to reunify would be tough with them. UNH creeping up and up. Yep, UNH continue. I mean, dude, today's UNH's day. Today's the fact that it's not giving up this momentum is, wow, look at that, 307. That's high of day, 13%. If you're in this one, you got to feel good today. You got to feel good. Nasty drawdown. If you've been DCAing from 230 to 250, you've got to be excited that this one's getting some respect and people are following the big guys. Show, thank you for the $20 super chat. Never take a day off from streaming again. My routine was so broken, I refused to trade, and I ended up consuming red pill content. Now I dislike everyone equally. Dude, red pill content has definitely gained momentum over the past year. You guys remember Andrew Tate when he called me gay? He is like the red pill poster child. And I tweeted one day, I was like, why is Bitcoin down? And he was like, because you're gay. I was like, okay, Mr. Tate. But yes, I am back today, so you won't have to keep consuming red pill content. This is June 24th, 2024. It's like, why is Bitcoin tanking? Because you're not gonna lie, it was kind of funny, bro. It was pretty funny when I saw this. The funny thing about all the red pill stuff is like, all of those people that are making red pill content, they could do themselves so much better by just focusing on the markets. But they're so obsessed with all this social stuff, and I'm like, dude, like at the heart of what I think it shouldn't be a red pill movement, but at the heart of it is like economic mobility. You know, like you have more money in your life, you can make better decisions, you can have better opportunities. And this is why I like the content that, you know, is part of this community. It's like, again, I try not to be really political. I know sometimes it's hard to avoid it, but like, I don't care about politics. I don't care about red pill, blue pill. I care about the green pill. I care about money. And the stock market is the way for a lot of us to achieve more elements of being able to make money and being able to gain financial freedom. And if all these red pill people just spent time doing due diligence on companies, bro, they could change their life way faster than consuming freaking Andrew Tate. Like when it comes to stock market content versus everything else, a lot of, dude, like stock market content is the type of content that I don't think is brain rot. There's a lot of brain rot content. I watch random Instagram reels of like, dude, I was watching this reel today of someone jumping off mountains, of like a cliff jumper is I think what you call them. And it's just like, it's pure brain rot because I'm never doing that shit. But it was kind of cool to see him do it. But like, that's not enhancing my life. There's nothing I get out of watching a 50-second video of a guy jumping off a mountain because I'm not doing that ever. But it's cool to, so it's brain rot, right? Investing is like, if there's some takeaways around covering the markets, and even if every day there's not like some trade you make, just knowing, keeping yourself sharp and acute about what's going on in the markets, I think makes you a better investor. This way, oh, by the way, at the apartment yesterday, dude, they have a free copy of the Wall Street Journal every morning. So I will be reading the Wall Street Journal, the actual paper copy every morning. And I'll be able to show you guys the front page every day. And I actually like that because I already read it on my phone because I have the digital subscription. But they have a, yeah, it's the Wall Street Journal ethical because they're killing trees to make their newspaper every day. But yeah, so like just knowing about what's going on, I feel like is so important. And it helps influence how you can be a better investor. Tavi, thank you for the $50 super chant, or Teve. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but appreciate it. Amit, my wife and I reached our first million in our portfolio this month. Wow. Congratulations. Started with $300,000 in savings, most of it through NVIDIA, Amazon, Palantir, and Hood. Much credit to you. Thank you for the stream. Now working on number 2. Dude, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. NVIDIA, Palantir, Hood, those are my top 3. Amazon is an incredible company as well. 300,000 to $1 million. That's a 3x. The 3x from your savings, bro. It's not easy. That is not easy. So congratulations. Thank you for being part of the stream every day. Hopefully the stream has helped contribute to your investing journey. And you know, we've been getting a lot of those super chats, right? A lot of people have been saying they hit their first million, or at least the portfolio's at all-time high. So I think now the question is, can we just keep the portfolios? You know, obviously we want to grow it, but can we make sure it doesn't get nuked by the end of the year? Right? Can we keep, like, if your portfolio ended and your year-to-date performance ended today, I feel like most people would be happy. Like, could it do better? Sure. But like, I feel like most people would be like, yes, I'm happy. At least like it's been a good year. And so I just don't want to lose that, even though I do think by the end of the year, you know, 6,700, 6,800 is not crazy to get there. First million is the goal. The second million is inevitable. 100%. First million is the goal. Second million becomes inevitable. Just put it all into Tesla now. There you go. I took mine from 250 to 700 in 2 years. Yeah, dude, again, I just want people to recognize when they say something like this, I took my portfolio from 250 to 700 or 300 to $1 million. That is not normal. That is not normal. Like most people on the planet in a couple of years cannot double or triple or even, you know, get 50% on their money. So for anyone that's anywhere near that range, whether it's 1,000 to 5,000 or 50,000 to 250 or 250 to 500, like, it is a big freaking deal. and it's empowering. It makes you feel like you're doing something with your life, even if you're not building Palantir, right? The fact that you were smart enough to invest in it, like that is empowering. But also Palantir could go down one day and then you lose some of the gains. So it's also gut wrenching. This is why this is such an emotional game. And when Howard Marks was talking about learning how to manage your emotions, that's like one of the big elements of being able to be an investor in the first place. Yeah, most people don't even have the money to try to double or triple their portfolios. So very, 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 very exciting stuff for all of us. Yeah, one-child policy has not been a thing in China for a long time. I agree, but the ramifications of that have been the issue. So obviously the one-child policy is not a thing in China anymore, but they had it for a while. And for a while, you were only allowed to have one child, right? And the Economist talked about that in the Lex Fridman podcast. One of the reasons she also said that China would not invade Taiwan is because the generation of soldiers that would have to go into Taiwan would be the generation of the one-child policy. So you would have a lot of parents sending off their only child to war. And that's, sending off your only child to die in some war when you don't even fully understand exactly why you're going to war, that would not be easy for Chinese parents to reconcile with, at least in this generation. So, ironically, the one-child policy might be one of the reasons she said sociologically for why China wouldn't invade Taiwan over the next decade. But yeah, now that policy is not there. Zach, thank you for the $20 super chat. I started with 50,000 in 2023 and I'm at 500,000 now. Wow. Mostly thanks to you, Mitt, for covering Palantir. Incredible, dude. Congrats. It's a 10x in 2 years. That is not easy. And again, a lot of people, again, you don't have to find many of them. A lot of people do it with 1 or 2 winners, and Palantir ended up becoming that winner for a lot of people, but also a lot of, SoFi, Hood, Rocket Lab. Palantir is one story, but there's a lot of other stories of that 1 or 2 names that really changed everything. And I think so many retail investors just have the ability to capitalize on that over the past couple of years. A little bit more coverage on UNH. Let me pull this up right here. Again, thank you for the super chat, Jack, and congrats on the 10x over the past couple of years.
Has been watching some of the movers. We have to check back in on United Health.
Yeah. Today's gains market's best day in 5 years. Take a look, up almost 13%. All it takes to see gains like that is Warren Buffett's seal of approval. Berkshire Hathaway revealed a 5 million share stake in the company. Buffett clearly has faith that they could turn it around. The stock up 12.8%. And here is Applied Materials. Very different story. Down 12.8%. Rough day today after earnings, all thanks to a weak outlook for the current quarter. CEO Gary Dickerson is blaming uncertainty at the macro level. But you spoke with Thomas Hayes earlier, and he said that's not enough to cut year outlook. He added other companies are suffering the same problem, right? Macro problems. And they're doing just fine. But this stock, Applied Materials, down 12.8% on the day.
So that's what he said? He said macro concerns. That's it? That's I feel like there's got to be something deeper there. Applied Materials down 13%. This is a big company, bro. This is a $130 billion company. I'll try to read through the transcript this weekend and see what else. This is the first semiconductor name that really has puked. We've had a pretty good earnings for the semis. We got NVIDIA in a couple weeks. But this is the first one that, well, no, actually, that's wrong. SMCI was the first one that really puked. SMCI down 2% right here. But we know SMCI's margins are not the best. Applied Materials, it feels like maybe there's a deeper macro story, potentially with tariffs, that are causing it. By the way, Rivian, here's what they said this morning. Rivian says it faces a $100 million hole after Trump relaxes fuel economy rules. Rivian makes millions selling regulatory credits along with Tesla, but the NHTSA has paused issuing compliance letters after penalties for violating CAFE standards were removed. Rivian says credits made up 6.5% of their revenue in the first half of the year, and they expect no more for 2025. So Rivian, Lucid, Tesla, all of these companies. Tesla's the only one that has enough revenue outside of the regulatory credits to, it'll hurt their earnings, but it won't decimate their earnings. Rivian and Lucid and Polestar, those guys are going to take a hit on earnings because of the lack of regulatory credits. So we're going to have to see how that ultimately affects the the broader EV trade going into the end of the year. Tesla right here, 332. Elon has been tweeting a lot about Grok and Tesla this week. He had that little public spat with Sam Altman. Dude, Elon keeps tweeting this Grok Imagine stuff. And like, look, I like it. I tried it. It's cool. But it's like every other post. Look at this. I've been scrolling for almost 10 seconds. It's more Grok Imagine stuff. And so I'm wondering, why is he trying to get people to like make all these Grok videos? Like why is it that big of a deal? Because they're real, I feel like they're trying to get that Ghibli moment that OpenAI had. Remember that image filter thing that went super viral? I don't know how many users they picked up because of that, but it was a lot. But he is pushing this Grok Imagine thing. And like, dude, it's cool to make a photo turn into a video, but it's not that cool. Like, it's like cool for 5 seconds. And then it's just like, okay, what's the point of like, why are we, oh, look at what he just tweeted. Look at this. This is the Bill Gates one. I mean, like this, like, it's kind of funny, but this is not the AI revolution, what it's meant for. These like GIFs of images. So I don't know. It feels like he's trying to really push something against OpenAI. But that's been his main focus this whole year. He spent billions on it. Yeah, I mean, look, Grok's not making a lot of money from my understanding. And so I think the reported revenue number is like 100 million. Like, they don't make a lot of money. So he's probably trying to get more people to use it and pay for it. But they burn a lot. I mean, ironically, they must be burning more money when people are making all these videos. But it's like, it's been, I think, more than a couple hundred posts / retweets / quote tweets in the past 5 days of Grok Imagine. And I'm like, bro, like I just don't think people care that much about it. But he's been tweeting a lot about that. So there you go. Well, dude, one of my friends, look, this is so funny. One of my friends just texted me. I've been helping him with selling options. And he just texted me his Rivian covered calls that are now worth 0, which means he made 98.3% on his money. He had $15 covered calls that he sold on July 21st for expiry today, 8/15. And he said, this feels kind of wrong. It feels like it's too easy. Dude, covered calls, when you find the right names, it can kind of feel like it's too easy, dude. And obviously it's not. There's a lot of risks associated. It's not just too easy, but like, if you thought Rivian was not going to go to 15 in 3 weeks like he did, that was his first covered call he ever sold. And he sold 11 of them. So he made like $700. But he's like, this feels too easy. And that's 700 on 1,100 shares. So I think that's like almost 2.5% in 3 weeks, which is, again, there's not a lot of places to make 2.5% on your money in 3 weeks. Again, I don't want to make it sound easier than it is, but like there is the worst case is if it went to 15, he would have had to sold those shares, which he's not that attached to Rivian. He just needed a stock to do some calls on. So there you go. If you had covered calls on Nubank today, at like 12.50, you might be upset because that's at 13.39. But if you bought calls on Nubank today, it needs to make a pretty big move depending on when you paid for the call. So even though a stock's up 11% on the day, unless it really gets above the strike price plus the premium you paid, your option is not going to be worth anything. Whereas with covered calls, usually the seller of that option ends up getting most of the delta and the theta, and then boom, and you have a shot to win. Yeah, the risk is Rivian tanks. And so he owns it at 11, or I think his average is 12, and then Rivian goes to 10, and so he's down $2 a share. But obviously that's when you would just keep writing more covered calls and try to rinse and repeat on it. First time I sold an option, it felt unreal. I was talking about this with Stephen from the NASDAQ yesterday. He's been telling me about retail participation, and I was like, dude, I think option selling is a new way that retail is entering the markets. And he was like, it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing that retail is starting to recognize that there is a way to generate premium in the markets and income essentially off derivatives. He was like, it was basically a secret in even in COVID, people were just buying YOLO calls because COVID was GameStop and AMC. But like now people are becoming investors And part of becoming an investor is learning about derivatives because it's used as a way to hedge, used as a way to elevate leverage. And the more sophisticated you are as a retail investor, the more you start to dive into these topics. And when you get into it and you realize you can leverage the portfolio and utilize it in a way that's a lot more, I would say, safe than buying calls or buying puts, because then you need a directional move. You just get a lot of volume. And Robinhood sold 515 million contracts last quarter. I mean, that's 500 million contracts just in options. They did 198 million contracts in July alone. Almost 50% of the entire Q2 volumes. Like, retail cares. Retail cares a lot more about option selling. Yeah, it's the easiest way to access it as well. So, is it a good time to buy BMNR while it is low or being diluted? It depends on if you think Ethereum goes up over the long term. You've got to believe Ethereum is going to be a massive winner over the long term. I think any time is the best time to buy Bitmine if you think Ethereum is going to 10,000. Like, whether you buy it at 40 or 70, BMNR is going to be a big winner if Ethereum goes up long term. The problem is people are thinking very short term about this. And I don't blame them because it's super volatile. I get it. But I think I've been pretty consistent on BMNR. If you want to buy it, you've got to believe that Tom Lee will get as much Ethereum as possible, and then Ethereum will go to the moon. So that's the thesis. Whether you're paying 40, 50, 60 bucks. And now if you're trading it, it's a different question. But if you're actually buying it as an investment, I don't think the price matters. I think Ethereum's price matters. And that thing has to go up a lot for this thing to really work. Especially when you factor in the 20 billion of dilution, which will be inevitable. Now, would I personally buy it here? I'm a little hesitant because obviously that 20 billion is going to be dumped eventually. And whenever it is dumped, I think the stock, probably takes a bit of a hit. What else do we have? Explosion in NYC. Did we get an explosion in NYC? Dude, it feels like something's been happening every freaking week in New York. Yeah, New York rocked by explosion in a Manhattan. Oh, I have some video of it. Huh. Explosion in New York City's Upper East Side. 100 firefighters and first responders at the scene. Huh, that's a lot of smoke, bro. That's not a little bit of smoke. Upper East Side. All right, I'll try to get some updates on that and see what we've got going on there. Didn't they dilute the other day? No, SBET diluted the other day, but not Bitmine. Krishna, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thanks, Amit and Matt Money, on your analysis on Hood and Rock Lab. At what point do you stop adding funds to the portfolio? 100K, 500K, 1 million. I think Matt Money would agree with me, and I think most of you guys in the chat would agree with me. I think you never stop adding funds to the portfolio. Like that should be the best part about having funds to allocate, is that you can add it to the portfolio, right? Like, the best part about having a job and income and having maybe a side hustle that you do on the weekends or something is if you have extra money, you can plow it into the markets. So I think the answer is never. Because realistically, let's say your portfolio gets to 5 million and you're making, I don't know, 200,000 a year at your job. And you have an extra, even $1,000 after all your expenses that you don't know what to do with. Why would you keep it in a savings account? Why would you not just buy the S&P 500, right? Just be super safe. Or why not just keep it on a brokerage where you get a better, even SoFi or Robinhood would give you a way better APY than JP Morgan. So even if it's not Schwab or Fidelity, it just makes no sense if you have disposable income, unless it's an emergency fund. Dude, my checking account has $2 in it. I don't okay, it's more like $200, but I don't keep money in my checkings account. I don't see the need for it. I think my savings account has the minimum you need in the savings account to not get an overdraft, which is $1,000 or something. But yeah, I do not keep money in my checking account. And also, when you use a credit card for everything, you kind of don't need it. Always be adding. I would say always be adding. It makes sense. Yeah, there you go. Matt Money. I'm always adding and buying. Dude, this is like, even if it's the S&P, let's just use the S&P so we don't have to pick an individual stock. If you have the money to keep adding and buying, which is a privilege because many people, A, don't know about the stock market, B, don't have the disposable income because they're not in the financial situation where they can actually allocate capital. Intel, by the way, up 5%. You should be buying. Night and day, rain or shine. If you're bullish America, the S&P is there. And does that mean at 643 it's the best deal? Maybe not short term. Maybe short term it's a great deal. But in 10 years, 643 likely is not 643. It should be higher. So because if you're not, it's just inflation eating away at the capital. And like this is a big mental switch for people. Like most people cannot make that. My sister, right, prime candidate, she did not understand why just having the money in a brokerage was more valuable, even with the 4% APY. Like I was trying to explain to her what is an APY. She wouldn't get it. Like even the most basic concepts, what is an APY? A lot of people don't understand it. And so like just that mental model alone. And then when it's in the brokerage, you're more likely to just, put money somewhere. That I think is a game changer for a lot of people. But again, adding to me seems to be like the best way to build a portfolio long term. Can you please do a live options video from scratch? So I already did one. It's Options 101. We are working with Jason on Options 301. Again, he's been building out a second headquarters, so it's been a little bit busy for him. I am going to do more option selling streams because we did it once like 3 months ago, but I think we'll do like a dedicated stream, maybe not this week, but in a few weeks on like a Saturday. And we'll just do straight up questions, Q&A for like hours on option selling. And that one I think can help a lot of people. But this is the Option 101 stream. I'll link in the chat. And this one goes in depth for 3 hours to get into it. Yes, we'll do the stock research video as well. Me and Steve will do that one. Like how do you do DD on a company? We will do that. Zelensky says there are no signals from Russia to stop war. Okay, no surprise there. I don't know, dude. I don't think we get a deal that easily. But we are going to see later today, probably around 6, 7 p.m. We're going to get some updates, maybe by 4 p.m., depending on how fast or slow the meeting is. But we're going to find out. Yasir said I had 500,000 in a checking account for 10 years because I didn't understand. Wow. Yeah, dude, that 500K just like in the S&P. Now, look, you could have a decade where the S&P sucks, right? That 2000 to 2008, like that is very possible. That is a risk that is associated with investing. But if you don't need that 500K or it's not meant to be liquid, even going through the tough times of a drawdown, which again, given all the earnings momentum, AI momentum, it feels like kind of one of the best decades to be an investor. Even that is still better than just having it liquid and doing nothing. So it makes sense. Tesla right here, down 1.2. Lyft is up 8% on the day. UNH, high of day, 309. That's up almost 15%. Google trying to break over 205. And Lyft still up 8%. AMAT is down because the CEO cited macro concerns on their guidance. Not sure exactly what those macro concerns were, but that is why it's down. Even Warren Buffett had many 50% drawdowns since the 1960s. You will live and you learn. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you have your money in a stock or the S&P, the broader market, and it draws that 500 becomes 250, as cheesy as it sounds, it's a lesson. It's a lesson on conviction, how to deal with DCAing, dollar cost average, and getting it. Like it's a life lesson. Like you buy a stupid biotech, it goes to zero. That's a life lesson. You buy the best market in the world, the United States, it goes down 50%. That is also a lesson. And it teaches you, I think, in both scenarios to become a better investor. But that 500K in a checkings account makes you just feel like, oh, I'm not the idiot who had my money in the S&P when it went down 50%. But that person that had their money go down 50% probably ends up making more money long-term because they learn about investing. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people. ETH's down 5. Okay, that's why BMNR is getting hit as well. BMNR down 7. ETH, wow, they're really nuking it, dude. Below 45, 44.20 now on Ethereum. 4420. Are you an unk? I will be 28 in October, so probably I'll be an unk. That's unk status, right? 28 years old. That's got to be unk status at this point. I think so. Jane Street bought 6.3 million shares of Grab. Okay, so that's good, but again, Jane Street, Citadel, these guys, like, they kind of have to buy shares of these companies because they're also market makers. So those I don't take as seriously as like a Howard Marks or a Bridgewater. That's more of like an opinionated investing firm that's running a fund. But it is good because that means there's more option activity. So Jane Street probably needs more shares to be able to sell calls against or be able to allocate to different institutional clients that are on different exchanges. Overall, dude, my thing on Grab is like when you see a 3% increase in 1 quarter on the institutional float, everyone knows where this is going, or at least their assumption is that they know where this is going. It's up to the company to execute. And if they do, then I think we'll see some momentum. I love it when you reflect and think you're old. I feel, look, 28 is obviously not old, but I feel like it's getting older. And I know a lot of people in the chat are much older than 28, but like, I don't know, dude, I just like, I've never thought of, the reason I say it's old is because like, I don't see that much of a difference between, okay, it's kind of stupid, but like, if you're 45 or 28, is there a difference? Yes, I get it. But you're not 18 anymore in both scenarios, right? So it's like, to me, I stopped feeling quote unquote young after like 23. Like once you get into your mid 20s, I was like, oh, okay, I'm embracing the older part of my life. It is what it is. So yeah, obviously it's not as old as 40, 50, but it's getting older. You know, I'll be 30 in 2 years, bro. You're there. And is 30 old? It's like I guess so. Like to me, but like I know that sounds dumb because like if you're in your 30s, you're like, oh, I'm not old. But I'm like, dude, you're not 18 anymore. And so I'm with you. I'm not saying I'm young at all. I'm not some 18-year-old coming out of college or high school. I'm getting up there with everybody else. So now in the grand scheme of things, is 30, 28, even 40 young? Of course, right? But like mathematically, it's young if you look at the average lifespan, but we're all getting older. We're all getting older. And that's okay. That's okay. We all got to embrace it. You know, there's always, I think in the zeitgeist, there's always been this like fear of asking people what their age is. And like, you know, getting older is like filled with the controversy of like losing your youth. And I get it because you have health issues when you get older. You have to come face to face with mortality. Like I was talking to Chris. Chris's birthday is near the end of August and early September. Chris is going to be turning 40. So he was talking to me the other day of just like coming to grips with the fact that he's going to be 40 years old now. But my thing is like, we're all getting there. Like if you're watching this right now and you're 19, you will be 30 one day. You will be 45 one day. Like, you know, you will also be at this stage of life. Everyone has to deal with it. It's inevitable. So I think that it's not a big deal to get older. And I quite frankly think you have to embrace it. Because if you don't embrace it and you're scared of getting older, and you're scared of learning new stuff, you're scared of embracing new skills, you're scared of like just the general anxiety of being an older person, like you're not going to enjoy your life as it's coming to an end every day. I mean, that's the ironic part about being a human being. Every day you live, you're getting closer to death. Not to be morbid, but like it's true. Like every day you live, you are one day closer to your inevitable death. And so I think cherishing every single moment as much as you can is important. But stressing about your age while you're simultaneously getting closer to death, to me, seems like a no-win scenario. Because you can't stop the death part, even though Brian Johnson, you know, wants to like eat chemical hamburgers to like reduce his aging. And you can't stop the getting older part. So I think it is definitely something to not feel sad about embracing. Tuned in for stock advice, found out I'm dying. Oh my gosh. But it's true. It's true. We're all going to die. So we got to have fun. Getting older is a privilege denied to many. That's also very true. That's also very true. Well, also, that should be a catalyst for wanting to learn about the markets, right? catalyst for wanting to increase your financial mobility is knowing that inevitably there will be an end to all of this. And I think if that doesn't catalyze you, then what does? By the way, here's the update on Applied Materials. Let's get a better sense of why exactly these guys got hit. We all have theta decay, dude. 100%. Literally all of us have theta decay. I've never thought of it like that, but there you go. That's correct.
Hi, good morning. It's quite a quarter for them. Applied Materials earnings aren't just a company-specific problem, though. They're really just it's a warning sign for the entire semiconductor capital equipment sector. And what do I mean by that? The company said in the earnings call that there was essentially a $1 billion surprise revenue shortfall stemming first from China. So management warned that after 2 years of spending in 2023, 2024, they're expecting a slowdown in 2025 and to continue for several quarters. Secondly, they're seeing weakness from leading edge customers. They're calling it non-linear demand, which really just comes down to one player, Taiwan Semiconductor. That will likely make the business much more lumpy and likely drive margins down because Taiwan Semi, TSMC, wields all the power and can really dictate to equipment companies what they want in terms of demand, which is why the company warned that it was lumpy. Applied Materials, though, also the only company to explicitly warn about the backlog of pending export license applications that are with the U.S. government. The CFO stating on the call that they, quote, assumed none of these licenses would be issued in the next quarter. Seems like only AI darlings like NVIDIA and maybe AMD getting preferential treatment, as the administration has to really sift through a pile of paperwork, all of these licenses in order to ship goods to China.
Okay, so export licenses is the reason Applied Materials is getting hit, and their guidance for several quarters is what she said, continuing to be bad. AMD down 2%, NVIDIA down 2% as well, is why the stock is getting hit as badly as it's getting hit, 13%. It was down almost 18% in the pre-market, so it's not as bad as it was. But that's the first semi to cite export licenses. Again, NVIDIA and AMD are getting the exemptions. I don't know if a lot of these other Microns, Applied Materials, et cetera, are getting those exemptions. Now, Micron did say they're investing $200 billion. Bessent talked about it 2 days ago. Micron's market cap is like $100 billion. So I don't know how they're going to invest $200 billion. But yeah, Applied Materials looks like they're expecting some more pain from the export controls. ASML has actually been recovering a little bit. Did it get hit today? It's down 2%. Nice recovery, at least pseudo recovery from the 680s. But that one, I think, this is a $300 billion company. I think they're going to have to deal with some export control stuff as well. I mean, that's why their guidance sucked 3 weeks ago, which is why the stock fell from 850. That one is down. Theta decay is a great way to think about it. My theta is 58. There you go. It is a really good way to think about it. Theta decay. We all have some form of theta decay. But also, that's also what makes the journey so special, with like being here every day and like finding these winners and being able to rally around them. It's like you have one life, and if, when you have a Palantir that changes your life, or a Rocket Lab that changes your life, or something, it's like, it's really incredible. It's really, really incredible for everyone to be here together on that journey, And even if it's not the same stocks, just having a community to do with it, I think, is the most important. I think that's, from the studies I've read, that's the hardest part about getting older, is like you get lonely, and loneliness is one of the biggest ways that people can get depressed, right? So just having any type of community, even if it's online inside of a YouTube chat, that is a community. And as a result of that community, people don't feel as alone. Unless I'm not live, then when a is not live, we decay faster. Dude, I was out of whack yesterday. It was weird. It was really weird not being live. It was really weird. So I didn't like it as much as you guys didn't like it. EJ, thanks for the $5 super chat. Thoughts on using 10% margin to invest in asymmetric opportunities like grab instead of selling large positions and winners plus paying taxes to fund it? I think when it comes to margin, dude, you have to have your own personal risk tolerance. Like, for example, someone on Twitter yesterday, they bought 1,000 shares of Hood at 110. So they spent 110,000 shares on margin, right? So they borrowed $100,000 to buy 1,000 shares of Hood. And I commented underneath it saying this is the first time they ever used margin. And I was like, hey,
one strategy for you is that you could sell the 125 covered call a month out. That would give you about $3 a premium. That $3 times 1,000 shares is $3,000. So now you bought Hood at 110. You're contractually obliged to sell it at 125 in a month. Let's say Hood doesn't get to 125. You pocket the 3,000. You have to borrow about 6,000 a year to be able to use that 110,000. You just paid off half your margin in 1 month on one set of covered calls. You do that for 2 months, boom, you paid off an entire year's worth of margin in 2 months. Now the risks are Hood blows past 125 and then you miss out on the upside. Obviously you could roll the covered calls at that point, collect more premium, or at least keep your shares and keep the original 3,000 in premium. Or you could sell the shares at 125 because it's not your money. It's Schwab's money or Robinhood's money or Fidelity's money. That 110,000 you used to buy 1,000 shares of Robinhood, that's not your money. That's someone else's money. So if you had to sell it, like people get mad when they have to sell their shares on covered calls at 125 when the shares get called away. But if it's not even your money, if it's margin, you're making $15 a share times 1,000. That's $15,000. Like you got to be kind of happy about that, knowing that you didn't even use your own money to be able to get the profit, right? So that's one thing you could do. The other risk is that Robinhood tanks. Let's say Robinhood goes back to 80. You bought at 110 and you borrowed money to buy it. Now you're down $20 a share or $30 a share. Your covered call premium, you'll collect 3,000, but if you're down 30,000, then you have 27,000 you have to make up for it. Now, could you write another shred of covered calls? Yes, but that only works if your Hood average is low enough. Because if your Hood average is 110, what, you're going to write covered calls at 85? Then what if those shares get called away and you have a 110 average? Now you're down $25 a share. But if your average is like 20 and you averaged up to 35, could you write another set of covered calls at like 95 because your average is 40? I mean, yeah, that's not the biggest problem in my opinion. But if you're initiating a position on margin, so to answer your question, if you're buying grab on margin, and then you can't make any money from grab because the option premiums are not good, and then grab tanks, or let's say grab is just stuck, so it doesn't go up, so you can't sell the shares and pay back the margin, you need to find a way to pay back the interest. And that comes down to, do you think the stock is good enough to be paying interest in the meantime to hold the stock because you think the stock's going to go up enough to be able to then sell the stock and pay off the interest and have a profit at the end? And so my perspective is most people should stay away from margin, because everything I just said is a lot of shit that you have to think about to even come to the conclusion that buying shares on margin makes sense. And most people, quite frankly, just don't have the bandwidth to go through all those scenarios. And then you never know. What if we get a Liberation Day 2.0, dude, and you're on margin? And then you not only are your shares down, now Robinhood, Fidelity, they want some of their money back because your margin maintenance, which is another concept to understand, goes down. And they're like, hey, buddy, like you bought Hood at 110. Sorry that it's at 50, but we need our money back. They sell your shares at 70 without asking you. And they make sure that their loan is collateralized via equity, but you end up holding it back. So I think for those that deal with margin, you just really have to understand exactly what you're doing. But some people can use it strategically. There's a lot of big investors that use leverage very strategically. And look, to be honest, there were some people, I saw some screenshots of people buying Palantir at like $50 on margin last year, probably around like, what was it? September-ish. And in my head, I was like, that person's crazy. I was like, who the hell? Palantir is up 3x this year. You're borrowing money to buy it at 50 when it's at all-time highs. Guess what? The stock has 3x since then. To borrow money at 5% to buy an asset that's going to go up 300%, that's pretty freaking smart. It's pretty freaking smart. Now, is it pretty freaking risky? Obviously. And you have to have extreme conviction that Palantir was going to do very well. But I don't care what anyone says. If you borrow money at 5% to buy something that goes up 300%, you are a, dare I say, genius. Your cost of capital was damn near nothing, and your return on that capital was everything. But it's not easy to do that, right? Like I don't know if he expected, whoever that screenshot was from, for Robinhood to go to, or for Palantir to get to 180. Like, what if Palantir just stayed flat, or what if Palantir tanked to 30 again? Granted, he had a lot more insight than I did. I was saying, hey, I don't know if Palantir is going to, I did not expect 180 7 months later. But The point is there's a way to navigate it. And also, if he was selling at the money calls on Palantir at the time as well, maybe he missed out on gains, but he definitely cleared the margin payment pretty easily because the premiums were really good as Palantir was running up. The premiums are still pretty good. So I think there's a bunch of different ways to navigate it. Until you aren't a genius, correct. Until you aren't a genius. Because if it doesn't work, I mean, you could have done that on freaking, I don't know. What's the name that didn't work out? Could have done that on Salesforce if you thought Salesforce was super cheap last year. You know, and Salesforce has kind of gone nowhere. Maybe you didn't lose a lot of money, but you didn't make a lot of money. You could have done that on, let's see. I mean, realistically, you could have done that on MSTX, some of these leverage funds, or BITX, which have done horrible because of the NAV erosion. At least Palantir was a real company where there was momentum. There's always a counter example for some of these, but when it works, it could really work. The odds of it really working every time are not easy, but that's why I think margin exists. Margin exists so that your cost of capital is low enough to take advantage of an asymmetric opportunity, but it has to be asymmetric for it to really work. Yes, there are always the variables that could be out of your control as well. Yeah, Intel. You could have done it on Intel, and that could have gone no. I mean, you could have bought. Do you remember that guy who put his grandmother's inheritance in Intel at freaking $40 on Reddit? He went viral. Intel still has not recovered. It's at 125 or $25 now. I think it was 800,000 he put into it the day before earnings. I don't know why people, dude, before earnings, people just like aping into this stuff. And earnings could either be a hit or miss. And that one just didn't work out. Yeah, you could have done it on an ethical company, could have done it on Beyond Meat. So there you go. Hey, man, instead of margin, would you sell long dated puts to get premium and use it to buy shares? Yeah, I don't think that's horrible either. It's just your collateral's stuck, right? So like if you sell a put on Hood at I mean, let's do an in the money put. So let's say you sell a put on Hood at like 75 for January 2027. And again, that means you're obligated to buy 100 shares of Hood in a year if it's below 75. Market's paying you right now to do that $11.60 a share. So that'd be $1,160. So $11.60 divided by 7,500. That means in about, that's 15%. So in about 18 months, you're making about, call it 1%, a little bit lower than 1% a month. And then you use that 1,100 to go buy shares of Robinhood. Yeah, that's fine. But you have to believe that by 2027, Hood will be above 75. And you also have to think, is my cost of capital with that 7,500 being tied up better than what else I could do with that 75? Like you could just spend that 7,500 and buy Hood right now, and maybe Hood goes up and that gets you more than the 1,100 in premium that you're getting from the puts. But see, even all of us talking about this stuff right now, this is what retail has started to learn so much more about. I mean, I literally in the past year and a half have started to learn all these strategies. This is why retail is becoming a bigger force in the market. Because you just have so many people doing so many different things, hedging, leveraging, whatever they need to do, option selling. And it's a new market. It's a new market where retail investors are really trying to find a different way to accumulate momentum. Tesla's dumping. Is it really dumping? Tesla right here down. Okay, Tesla's below 330. I don't know why it's getting dumped today, but it is getting dumped. Federal Reserve announces it will sunset its novel activities supervision program for crypto and fintech activities by banks. Okay, that's bullish because that means you have less crypto regulation, which is great. It's tanking Ether though. 4,400, Bitcoin as well. Okay, I think some of those options are getting ready to expire. You're seeing a lot of red candles across the board. Palantir now down again, 2.6. SharpLink, 15% down on the day. If Trump's getting rid of all the crypto regulations, the crypto companies are going to take advantage of that. Your thoughts on 2x, 3x leverage ETFs? I think they're good trading instruments at a certain point of time. I think using them as a long-term hold is scary because the underlying could be flat or go down. So I don't own any of them. But I do think that there's a time and a place. Like when Tesla was at 100, if you bought TSLL, you've done very well, at least in a certain period of time, because then Tesla went up and down. But like when Tesla went from 100 to 350, if you owned a 2x leverage version of that, you did really well. But then when Tesla goes back from 350 to 220, then it goes to 290, then back to 270, then back to 350, now it's back to 328. Like the leverage version of that just erodes all the NAV, and there's not much gains to be had. TSLL right here down about 5% on the day. My daily job is to buy and sell candles. Yes, we all own our own candle factories, and that is our job. Lyft high of day 16 on Lyft. Dude, the Lyft yesterday was $20 cheaper than the Uber. That's why I took the Lyft. I was like, this was cheap, bro, compared to Uber. So shout out to Lyft. They undercut Uber yesterday. ChatGPT mobile app revenue hits $2 billion to date, averaging $291 per install. Dude, that $2 billion is going to turn into like $10 billion in a couple years. ChatGPT is going to make so much money off this app. I mean, 700 million weekly users. Most of that's probably through mobile. That's only going to grow, dude. That's going to be a couple billion eventually per week. Now, Grok and Gemini, these guys are going to try to steal some of those users. But at the end of the day, bro, I kind of feel like ChatGPT won. They won. They got everyone who thinks of AI thinks of ChatGPT. It's just that simple. And that doesn't mean successful. That doesn't mean Gemini can't do well. But the average person who thinks of GPT thinks of AI, thinks of GPT. Like most normies have no idea what Anthropic is. And if they keep growing that, it's going to win. And they're likely going to be able to leverage a lot of that to turn into revenue. We got Dana White. He's live talking about this UFC deal. Let's see what he has to say about the Paramount $7.5 billion deal with UFC.
More than 15% this week on the news. Joining us now, UFC president and CEO Dana White. Dana, welcome to CNBC. Thank you for being here. Tell us kind of how this deal came about, why Paramount, why the sea change, kind of moving away from the pay-per-view model.
Yeah, well, going into the negotiations, we were talking to all the majors, and we were willing to do, whatever our new partner wanted to do. Some did want to talk about pay-per-view and possibly stay in the pay-per-view business, and some didn't. It just happened that Paramount, doesn't want to be in the pay-per-view business. They just want to throw everything up on their streaming service, CBS, and they have much bigger plans over the next several years, too, that I am very aligned with and excited about.
Like what?
Obviously, well, let's just put it this way. If you look at the deal that we've done, these guys are very smart businessmen, and they are very aggressive. And I think they're going to make some real aggressive moves over the next 7 years that we're with them. And I love being a part of that.
Yeah, Dana, we talked to Mark Shapiro and Ari the other day here on this network, and I think their words were, we're going old school. You mentioned CBS, and we're wondering, is that a comment about you guys broadening the audience, or is there something about network broadcast that the market might be missing?
Listen, CBS is still a major player, on television, and when you're in the fight business, when you have the right fight, I have a fight Saturday night. This Saturday, I'm in Chicago right now. It's a massive fight. This thing's going to do very well on pay-per-view. So to say that the pay-per-view model is dead, it isn't. We still do very well on pay-per-view. I'm going to be on pay-per-view tomorrow night. But when you think about having a fight like I have tomorrow, and you do it on CBS and another major platform that will cost $13 instead of $80, we're definitely going to bring in a lot more viewers. People who might not have bought the fight because the money was an issue. That's all going to change over the next couple of years.
So where do you see kind of the sky's the limit here for UFC? I think Joe Rogan said it would cause the sport to go effing hypernova. But it also loses kind of that ESPN marketing machine. You think that will be made up at the price point?
We have coming out of this deal, I have an incredible relationship with ESPN. There's a lot of talk that once ESPN's out of business with sports, they don't cover them anymore. I'm very confident that we will have an amazing relationship with ESPN, and they will still cover the sport.
What does this mean for pay for fighters, which has long been a topic of conversation?
Yeah, obviously this is great for the fans. It's great for the sport, but it's also great for the fighters. Fighter pay has gone up every year since we bought the company, and this will be no different. And you'll start to see an immediate change in fighter pay in January.
You guys bullish? You think this is good for Paramount and TKO? TKO again, UFC. There is a way to own a bit of it, given it is public. TKO Group Holdings. This thing got into the S&P 500 in March. I had no idea that they were public, but there is a way to do that. I don't know. I mean, look, $7 billion guaranteed is probably really attractive, and that's why I think Dana White did it. And to make that much via pay-per-view, like, it's a lot harder. Paramount does have like 90 million subscribers, so they already have distribution that's built in. I think it makes sense. I think it's a good deal for UFC. I don't know if it's the best deal for Paramount, but Paramount needs content, and apparently people love UFC. I don't watch it because I'm not a big sports guy, but like I mean, people love that, dude. On Friday nights, Saturday nights, people get together, they watch the fight. Like, I've never been that type of person, but on Friday nights we're talking about Palantir. But for the people that do that, it's a big business. And now he has $7 billion guaranteed from that business, which is not too crazy. Win for a long stream today since you ditched us yesterday to go shopping and eat steak. How long has the stream been? Dude, it's 12 p.m. Okay, so I promise you I did not think it was 12 p.m. today, bro. Wait, Trump and Putin are going to be live? Holy crap. They're going to do this live? I mean, they're probably not going to do the negotiations live. I didn't think they were actually going to talk to the media. That's at 3:30. Oh boy, market close. We are going to see Putin and Trump go live. It's probably going to be at 4 o'clock. If it's at 3:30, I'll start early, but it's likely going to be, it's probably going to be an hour late. There's no way they're going to start at 3:30. Probably around 4 or 4:30, but there you go, folks. That's going to be, when's the last time Trump and Putin, this was, I mean, maybe 2017 is the last time we've seen a picture of these two guys together. Yeah, there's no way they're doing it during the market. No freaking way. No way. Every time they say it's 3:30, it ends up being 4 to 4:30. So I highly doubt it starts at 3:30. If it does, I'll go live and we'll watch it. But this is gonna bring in hella ratings. Oh my gosh, dude! Wow, I did not think they would. I thought the negotiations were so tense and so like uptight that they were not going to actually speak to the media. But apparently. Like, what if the negotiations are horrible? Now, granted, I don't know if they're going to do this before they negotiate or after. Probably before. I doubt it would be after. But like, imagine the negotiations went horrible. No one's willing to give up anything. Like, what do you like? How do you embrace the media? What do you say? They're just gonna be like, yeah, we both still hate each other. You know, it's like, so it has to be before. And they're probably gonna try to be really friendly. And then after the cameras are closed, we're gonna get an update to see if Trump got a deal done. But obviously they're not going to be live streaming the negotiations. So we're going to have to see what happens. Yeah, I doubt it's during power hour, which is 3 to 4. I really doubt it's, I mean, if it is, I'll go live, but I really doubt it. I don't think they would do it when the market's open. But yeah, dude, I did not know it was 12 p.m. I think because I didn't go live yesterday, today felt like a recovery stream of just like getting back to it. And it really felt like it was 10:30 right now. It did not feel like it's been 3 hours and 30 minutes at all. Because some days I feel it, but today I 12:15 already, bro. Does not feel like that. Anyone else feel like a Mitch to stay on through the close to make up for yesterday's ghosting? First of all, I didn't ghost anybody. That's why I was so surprised why people were reaching out. 2 days ago, on the market open at 9:30, I think it was like 9:45. I got the email from Raymore and Flanagan that said, hey, we'll be there at 10 a.m. And I said it live. I remember this. Guys, I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow. I said it in front of everybody when most people were part of the stream. So I was so confused why people were like, what's going on? People had no clue. And like, I felt like I told most people. So it was not ghosting at all. but it was weird for me as well. Oh, the dentist was great. She came through the apartment. You know, we really made sure to break in the bed, if you know what I mean. So it was great. It was a great time yesterday. That was actually the real reason I couldn't make the stream. But yeah, she was awesome. She was. I'm kidding. For those that don't get it, but yeah, it was good. We got most stuff done, dude. We got most stuff done. Fro ditched us for the dentist. Dude, Tanner was covering all the 13 Fs when on the market close. Because if I was live, I would have been, dude. If I yesterday was a crappy day to miss the market close. Because if I was live, we would have had so much breaking news all at once. But I couldn't go live, so Tanner was covering all of it, waiting for the new bank earnings. Dude, I really hope the dentist is not watching right now. I forgot I told her about the channel. Oh my gosh, I need to remember that. That's gonna be an awkward cleaning, bro. Next time, that's gonna be an awkward cleaning, bro. That's gonna be so awkward. I need to remember that's a real human. But you guys turned it into a meme, so I ran with it. You can't make, like, you guys turned it into a joke. So I'm like, all right, if it's a joke, it's a joke. But like, she is a real person. Like, she is a dentist. Stream during the next teeth cleaning. Dude, I think we'll definitely do some more in real life streaming stuff next, definitely next year, but in the new apartment. I think we'll have some fun stuff, dude. It was cool, man. I think you guys will enjoy this apartment. I'm going to go there again tomorrow, and I'm going to try to figure out. S&P, by the way, right here is down 0.25. I'm going to try to figure out if I can actually stream with the background that I want, which is like this. I don't even want to say it. I was going to say a certain word, but if I say a word, it'll give you a visual of what it looks like. And I don't want to say the word. I really want it to be a surprise, but I want to see if I can stream with the view without the glare from the sun. Because the sun's coming in here, and I want to go here to avoid the sun, which still gives you the view. But I don't know if I can fully avoid the sun. So tomorrow, I'm going to legit see what the stream looks like if we can do it the way I'm thinking of it. And I think it'll just be a really cool background every morning. So it's dope. Some dope stuff. But it should be fun. And if there is a glare, then I don't know. We're going to have to figure it out because I don't want the brick background. I want to do something different now. And maybe we go back to the bricks. So I'm going to take the next couple weeks to really figure it out. But I think once I have the perfect setup, I think I'll know. And it should look nice. It is not. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the World Trade Center view. I wish we had a view. We can't see Statue of Liberty, though. We can't see Statue of Liberty. So we can't see the World Trade Center, but we can see Statue of Liberty. But the Statue of Liberty is all the way to the side, so you're not going to see it in the background. I'll show it when I do a tour, but you can't actually see it in the main area. But it should be fun. Yes, we will definitely be having some life-size posters of Carp and Vlad for sure. That's definitely happening. I have to find a lot of Palantir Robinhood gear to put on the walls. I haven't even started decorating or stuff, but I think it'll be really cool. Dude, you know what I wanted to get? I wanted to get a freaking arcade machine. Those retro arcade machines where people can just play Pac-Man and stuff. I wanted to get one of those because there's a space in the apartment where it would fit perfectly, and I'm like, that would be kind of cool. So I'm thinking of what is some fun stuff we can put there. And see what it could look like. ETH below 4.4, dude. This thing. Friday, she's getting hit 43. BMNR has to be getting hit with it. It is indeed down 9%. Down 9%. All right, they're taking crypto down today. They're taking crypto down. Yes, I will have my rant intro done by then because we will be doing plenty of ranting in the apartment. Dude, I also need to see how the mic sounds because there's a little bit of an echo in the apartment. So I'm going to have to see like if the mic, I might have to get a little bit of gear to make sure there's, the audio sounds decent. But yeah, there's a bunch of things I got to figure out to make this happen. So it should be cool. Should be cool. Oh yeah, that's true. Echo because you need furniture. That's also fair. You definitely need. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. Once you get carpets, furniture, all that stuff, that helps out. It is not Liberty Towers. Liberty Towers is a great spot. Liberty Towers is like a bit expensive though, bro. Liberty Towers is you got to be doing really well to live at Liberty Towers. So yeah, that is not where it's at, but it's in Jersey City. So a lot of those places have, similar views in that area. Are you happy with the view? Yeah, I am. Like I really wanted the New York City skyline, but it just wasn't possible to get it. But I'm pretty happy with the view, dude. Like yesterday, I was kind of just staring at it for like an hour. Like I was just with my computer stand. I was like, dude, this is like, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But I think everyone will enjoy it. All right, so ETH still getting dumped right here. Bitcoin 117, $30 away from going below. Nvidia, they're not giving it any love, down 1.5. And then Salesforce. Wow, so Salesforce catching a bid with UNH. Is Verizon green as well? That would be the value stocks of the day. Verizon is green. There you go. Growth to value today, folks. Robinhood somehow is holding green. Grab is somehow holding green. But it looks like the UNHs, the Verizons of the world, are getting momentum along with Salesforce. Yeah, Nebius has been doing a great job with these CoreWeave dips. Apparently, JP Morgan sold about 6 million of CoreWeave today as well. So 6 million shares. So that's a lot of stuff they sold probably for some of the insiders post the IPO lockup. Nebius as a fundamental business, their growth rates are just way better than CoreWeave too. Now, again, they're a much smaller company. And as Sam was on the show the other day, he thinks the upside is a bit capped now. He thinks it's a good buy, but you got to have a better horizon than a year, given it's already doubled in the past couple months. But it looks like they are handling their finances a bit better than CoreWeave. And as a result, the stock's been holding up really well, even with some of the CoreWeave volatility. I'm up huge on UNH, dude. Congrats. It's a winner. It looks like it will be a winner. It's a winner today for sure, as the big guys have piled in. Again, my only fear is the big guys piled in and the stock still is down so much. And the stock was at 230 a couple of days ago. So it's like someone was selling it to Buffett. And whoever was selling it to Buffett disagrees with Buffett and Tepper and Burry. And the question is, are all these guys going to be right? Or is it kind of too consensus to the point where all of them are crowded in the trade? Lyft up 10%. There you go. Lyft high of day. And if I had to, my gut reaction is I think Buffett's going to be right. I think we already know UNH is dirt cheap on the valuation, even if the growth estimates are down. And if they're sandbagging, then the growth estimates are not going to be down by the end of 2026. And then you have the biggest guys in the world taking a shot at it. So it does feel like they're going to be right. But the question is on what time frame. Lyft right there, 16 on the day. That's green. UNH 14%. High of day on UNH 309.67. Then Nebius. That is up 3%. The next Palo Alto meetup might happen probably next year around February, March. I tend to go to California around that time, so could be then. I think I might be in California later this year, though, but I just don't know if we have the bandwidth to do a meetup. But yeah, I go to Palo Alto a lot, so I think we'll try to do the meetup definitely next year. Stock draft, Matt's up 20, I'm up 15, Tanner's up 6, Steve is down 0.3, Chris is down 0.4. So it's Matt, Tanner, Matt, Amit, Tanner, Steve, and Chris. And that's what we have for the stock draft today. All right, is that it? Is that it? Are we done? 3-hour stream. We officially done for the day. Well, not for the day, for the open. We'll be back on the close. Steve will probably call into the close today. Why are you guys all spamming no, bro? It's been 3 hours and it's about to be 4 hours. Like, goodness. I can't believe Trump and Putin are going live, bro. That is wild. That is wild. That is going to be something to see. I wonder, they're going to have the translators. I wonder how we navigate that. But yeah, we'll be back on the close. And dude, what's for lunch? Lunch, dude, my leftover steak, bro. That steak, Ben & Jack's in New York. I recommend it. And I also recommend for everyone to just do it medium well. Okay, just take a chance with medium well. That is going to be my lunch today. Because this thing was massive, bro. This thing was huge. This thing is absolutely huge. So I think medium well is the way to go. Again, Steve, he could not tolerate that level of gray, but it's the right way to do it. It's the right way to do it. But yeah, we'll be back on the close. And yeah, I think, look, dude, if we're ending out this week with the S&P at 645, 643, I think we're Gucci. I think we're good. Like, if that's how we end out the week, this thing was at 618 on August 1st. It's August 15th. I'll take 643. I'll take 643. Even if it closes at 640, I'll take that. So I think we're holding on to August very strong. There have been some good dips, like Hood at 92. There's been a massive move in people's portfolios as per Palantir, which has helped a lot of us. And Palantir has kept relatively a lot of the gains. BMNR has been all over the place, but still Ethereum was like $80 away from all-time highs. I'll take that. Bitcoin did get to all-time highs. It's been a decent August. NVIDIA got to 184 for like 2 seconds, but still. Apple recovered so far in August to 230, still down 5% for the year. Amazon went from 230 to 207, now back to 230. Like, August has UNH 14% up. I mean, it's just not been that horrible of a 2-week stretch. And as long as we can keep it towards the rest of August, I think people will be happy. Tanner says, thought the medium stakes we got you in Toronto converted you. The medium stakes were good in Toronto. The medium well is where my heart is. Medium well is where my heart is. I remember I tried medium rare the other day. Okay, so I tried medium rare at Texas Roadhouse, which is not like Ben & Jack's. Like, there is a night and day. Night and day does not do justice to describe Texas Roadhouse steaks versus Ben & Jack's. But still, medium rare, it was good. It wasn't medium well. Medium well is, I think, the right way to do a steak. I just think it is. I just think it is. Earnings and AI momentum is not slowing down onward. I agree. Dude, the fact that PPI was that bad and the market was like, I mean, I don't know, bro. It's hard to say that's like a bad reaction from the market. And I think that's also giving us some confidence about the overall momentum in the market. Dennis says, dude, that medium well steak and you're now reheating it. That's going to be more than well done. Dude, I like my steak cooked. I don't know what to say. It probably will be more than well done, but I like it. I don't know what it is. I liked it. I like it more gray and just not as pink. And I don't know, but it's a good steak regardless. Ben & Jack's is definitely a good steak. You know, there's a lot of people coming to the apartment as well in September. So I wish we could throw like a subscriber party or something like that. Obviously, there's just like too many people for that to ever happen in the apartment. But there's a couple of, like there's a guy I know in Italy who I was talking to last year. We both met because of Palantir as well. It's not Arnie, it's someone else, and he's making a trip to the U.S. and he's going to stop by. And you know, early Palantir, and he's just an awesome guy that we connected with like a couple years ago. I think Arnie also will be coming in September. Matt will be coming. I think Tanner will be coming. So there's gonna be, but there's Eddie Eddie, some of you guys may know Eddie. He's in the Hood community. Eddie and his wife are going to be coming through because they've been early Hood. And so they're making a trip down to New York. So I really do want it to be a place where people can, you know, just relax and it'd be a hospitable environment and get to meet and stuff. So should be fun. It's near New York, near the city. It should be good for guests and content and podcasts and stuff. So I think it'll be cool. I think it will be pretty cool. Invite Carp and Vlad. That would be fun. Who knows? Maybe Carp. Well, not Carp because he's not in New York that often, but Vlad I think is in New York a lot more often. So maybe one day he stops by to do a podcast, which would be super dope. Most Indians are religious and can't eat beef. Yeah, I mean, dude, I've ate everything. Now, mayo, I think, should be banned across the entire board. But sushi, food, I mean, like, I've had octopus. You guys have I've had octopus before. Like, I really never strayed away from trying new stuff. But mayo, I think, still should be banned. That should not exist. It's just nasty, bro. Fake Indian. Yeah, exactly. Fake Indian. Yeah, I mean, Indians, they don't mess with beef. That's why when my grandparents were here, dude, like I could not eat any chicken or anything near them. Like my grandma would go crazy, much less steak. You can't do that stuff. But still, I've never been too opposed to it. All right, word of the day. Let's do word of the day, and then we will get out of here. What do we have on the word of the day? Oh, I know this. Soliloquy. I know this one. Soliloquy.
Soliloquy.
The act of talking while or as if alone. The actor stepped forward and began a haunting soliloquy that stilled the room. Half the essay read like a private soliloquy, raw and unfiltered. You do this every day. That's the only reason. Dude, the only reason I could say this word is because like this is my life. Like every day is a soliloquy. We went on a philosophical soliloquy about our own personal theta decay. I mean, like this is what we do all day. Soliloquize about the markets, if that's even a word. Every stream is a 3-hour soliloquy. Yep, there you go. There you go. So that's what we got. All right. I think that is it. We'll be back for the close tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday. Close today. Yeah, guys. That's pretty much it. It's not a horrible August so far. I mean, now we just got to see if we can continue that going into the end of the month. And again, all these super investors, I mean, look, the stuff that I wanted to see, Grab got added. Robinhood got added a decent amount. Palantir, you starting to see more exposure. UNH, obviously, for a lot of people did well. And Google, Amazon, and NVIDIA. Like, there's like everything we wanted to see the big guys buying, they bought. Now, they could have sold over the past 6 weeks, right? So we'll see an updated Q3, what they did. But yeah, people take advantage of the dip, which is a good thing. All right, that is it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If I don't see you later today, then I'll see you on the Sunday Future Show, and we'll keep going from there. If I do see you today, we'll be on the close. Steve should be able to call in. Not sure if that's definitely going to happen, but I don't think he has the same types of meetings he had last week. So we'll probably talk UNH and all that good stuff. And yeah, again, appreciate everybody. Deeply, deeply, deeply humbled by the amount of people that wanted the show yesterday. Sometimes, when you don't do it, you wonder, do people actually care about it? And it seems like a decent amount of people care. And, they enjoy the community part of the content more than anything. It's part of your routine. And it's also part of just like the vibe of every single day being able to navigate the markets. So needed, not wanted. Again, guys, it's a lot of, like, my mom even was seeing all the comments. My mom was like, people really were mad the show. I was like, yeah, people were really, she was like, she was also like just super, as a parent, you're like, you feel very thankful that people care so much about what your son is doing. So it was big for her to see that, and I appreciate it. And again, I also was just going crazy the whole day. I didn't like, outside of navigating the furniture coming in, it was just weird. Like it was just like I should be talking right now about the markets, but I wasn't. So happy to be back, and we will keep going. All right, everybody, appreciate it. I'll be back in a couple hours. I might go live at like 3:20ish if this Trump Putin thing is happening early. If not, then probably 4 p.m. Maybe it's at 4:30, maybe it's later, but if so, then we'll be live and we'll see what Trump and Putin end up doing. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Bye, everyone.